Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Lifting. This episode was recorded on 2/24/24. This is going to be more of impromptu. This is kind of, I want to say, energy report slash more of a topic in that way, because it coincides with what we've said about the dumbing and what we've said about other narratives and things of that nature. But this is a more refined into more of a specific area. But as always, before we get into further into the discussion, Joanna, you can do the law of one.
We are all one, and when one is harmed, all are harmed. When one is helped, all are helped. Therefore, in the name of who I am, and I am one with all there is, that only the highest good be done. I pray for you, your friends, your family, your loved ones, to let healing energies in, to let them love you and nourish you and bring you to your highest good. I ask for benevolence to come in now with no conflicting agenda, be it past friends, family members, galactics, whomever wish to come in to join in and hear this conversation. And again, to ask for malevolence or mischievous beings to kind of be swept away now so that we can have this conversation without interference and that people are able to just listen to this conversation and then be able to mull it around to see if it has any usefulness in their own life. So with that and with great blessings that we send to all of you, we say so be it.
And so be it. This is based on a series of things that have been happening. Other friends have reported this to me over the past couple of years, but it's revved up in intensity. Very much, if you go to the World of Sasquatch's Rumble, you're going to see a recent episode entitled The Dumbing. This goes along with the concept that was being spoken about there and some conversations we've had on GIC as well. But this is actually slightly more refined. Whereas, of course, people imagine stories in their head and entities hijack creativity. All of this, we've discussed that ad nauseum, where creativity is being hijacked to co-create things, events. When these entities cannot do it. But examples of what's been happening more recently, especially if you're in a moment of weakness, where maybe if there's like a health concern, or if there's grief, or if there's trauma, or something like that. This also has to do with the concept where you may have heard on GIC at some point with us talking about the tripwire concept, whereas you hit a certain frequency, therefore a tripwire, like a landmine, will rain down the series of unfortunate events. That's AI based. That's also magic based. This is slightly in that category, but it bleeds into other categories like the Nebelwerk and the Dumbing. So this, I'll give one example of this, and then also an example of a dream as well that happened this morning that also fits both the Dreamtime Invasion category. It fits this and this concept. Whereas I'm in scenarios that make no sense, like lives I've never lived, things I've never done, and where I'm literally having engaging in a conversation or engaging in a life that I know as I'm sitting in it, or talking, or thinking it. Whereas I have a full set of awareness of what that person is, who their person is, what they're doing, all of this. Even scenarios where I've had kids, where I'm putting them through school, doing this, do that, or I'm having an argument with a teacher over this or that. And I've made notations over the past few months on some of these instances. I don't need to go through all of them. That would take hours. But this, and a friend of mine reported the same thing to me, where he was literally talking to nothing. And you're literally talking to nothing. And it goes through the creative center of your brain, and it gets dropped. You're literally in this scenario where you're just like living out these scenarios. And some people are probably saying, well, these are narratives that are dropped into your head. Yes, where I've basically told people where I've seen like sci-fi type scenarios or fictional scenarios where somebody's dead, or somebody's alive that you don't care about, or some disaster happens, or some really weird co-creative thing happens within like a show scenario, and somebody's trying to get you to co-create something negative. And I always say, put your name as the executive producer, director at the end of it, after you've cut it off in some fashion, or changed the story, flow it, continuity from one thing to the next to make it better. I've said that many times. This falls under a slightly different category. it bleeds into all these others, especially the Dummening and the Nebelvert conversation and the Dreamtime invasion conversation specifically. But consider this as more of an amalgam of those categories. Where the one good example of this, and I notated this probably a few weeks ago, but where I'm in a scenario where I have a child that's being put through school, or this, a teacher is giving them bad marks. You're having an argument with the child, the teacher, the other parent, or you're discussing things, how to plan things out, like day-to-day stuff, regular stuff that people go through. But the issue I have with this is, where exactly is this coming from? I have literally scanned every bandwidth, also dimensional concerns, because people live lives in other dimensions. People live lives, like we said on another Sasquatch episode. Well, it's also the Dummening episode, where you can have other people that are part of your oversoul that are doing something here, that buffering something so it doesn't hit you, or they are performing a task that the oversoul is trying to finish. Um, like in the channeling Jeffrey Hunter gave us a while back, whereas he didn't accomplish everything on his list. Like also we were talking about on the best laid plans, the episode of the lifting. I found out the way the oversoul does accomplish it. If you have to accomplish it in the timeline you're in right now, in this reality, there is another person that goes through a certain set of things. Like we said in the Dummening episode with the guy on the pier, you go look at that, you can go through that whole scenario. Whereas a certain scenario had to play out so the oversoul could experience this and do something about that and those energies associated with it that had built up, maybe on your end, another end. But that's how the oversoul in this timeline and in this form accomplishes that task. So Jeffrey Hunter, when he was alive, as he was saying, he didn't accomplish everything he thought he would. That doesn't mean another avatar didn't complete the list. So another part of the avatar that wasn't him. This is how this was explained to me. Multiverse will always play out the rest of the list. These other cells will, or these other aspects or people within the oversoul, will then accomplish these other fragmentary parts of the mission. That said, I looked into that concept for this, whereas you're talking to nothing, or you're living this other reality. I looked in multiverse. I looked at this. Could not find the point of origin for this. Some people say, Chris, that's AI. Looked into that. Telepathic manipulation. Looked into that. But it leaves you vulnerable to telepathic and AI manipulation, I noticed, because it wears you down, because you are engaging also. Say if you're engaging in an argument with somebody in that, then you see the person in real life, you're automatically still pissed at the person. They don't have context for it. Negativity will take advantage of the situation, but I don't see that they are the cause of the situation. They just take advantage. They're opportunists. So and they feed off of like flies gravitating to poop. So this is where I'm at now. I will go into a dream sequence which I believe bleeds into all of these categories, including Dreamtime Invasion. And the irony of this what I'm about to say is not lost on me, since the full moon is tomorrow. That's also a lot of craziness happens around the time of the full moon, and your brain can get all screwed up. The water in your body gets pulled on, all of these things. And when you exert energy on the water in the body, that affects the energy, whether it's negative, positive, just like the test they did years ago where they put the word hate in front of water and love, and it changed the water molecules. This is that concept. But in this, and that's not, the irony is not lost to me, because there are werewolves in the dream sequence, so it's not lost to me the irony of the full moon tomorrow from the time of this recording. In this scenario, and I've run across, and I always tell people, if you're running from something or looking for something, you're being messed with telepathically. That's still true. In this scenario, we were in a resort, or heading to a resort. We had her grandson asleep. We had her, and I was there, and there was one other person I couldn't identify there, that had lighter brown hair and had shorter hair like mine. But I couldn't identify this person, so the energy was all wavy and everything. Hence the Dreamtime Invader, I believe. We drive up in this old car, like 80s vintage, 70s, 80s vintage car. Similar to the one that hit me, it was an 84 Mercury that hit myself. If people look up that design, it was like that. The back in 2009 when I got hurt. But when we pulled into the space, we then were confronted with I saw these beings moving through the parking lot, and her counterpart, and including the person that was in the back that was not being decoded or translated correctly, was kind of slightly panicked, and there was another female voice I couldn't identify. These were obviously dogmen or werewolf types, but they had an elongated form, and the snout was kind of odd, but you could tell by the nose structure and face structure that's what they were. And there was a cat being with them too that was kind of slinking around the parking lot with longer limbs. They looked a little weird. Seeing the energy probably not completely right, but translating wrong. But anyway, I said I would bilocate and go and distract them and get them away from there. And I did. I jumped out. I did what I usually do here when I'm doing sessions, and went out and started doing and distracting them a little bit. And they all came over to me, and then I played dead, and I could hear one of them sniffing, and for quite a while, going, how dogs will just sit there and do that to you for like an hour. So this is how it was, and it said three words. First two words were not food, and the third one was go, meaning they're telling the other ones to go. And that's how some of them talk. They have kind of a caveman essence to them in that way. Next jump scene was over to the inside of the resort, going into a hotel room, and then I was walking through a hall. We were walking through a hallway. We got separated, and I was walking through this one hallway, past several animals on the way in, past a goat, and past the severed head of a white buffalo that was on a dolly, which I thought was creepy, but it was alive too. The goat was friendly, and and creepishly, I'm petting the head too. And I went up to the goat, which was very playful and everything, and was helping. Was scratching his butt and everything, going hey, doing stuff like that. And he was smiling and everything, meaning that was a protector that was obviously in the dream. Hence, Dreamtime Invasion and Spirit Animal was helping out. And the severed head of the white buffalo, that's a Native American prophecy that tells of a new earth, essentially. But with the severed head, when one dies, that means there's a negative connotation. There's meaning somebody was warning me that there was something associated with Native Americans that wasn't quite nice that was in the dream sequence. So somebody was going the grotesque route with that. Now, getting into the current topic portion of this, I keep walking. There's a guy that's pushing his head around. I think it was the same one from the car. I couldn't quite decode him right. Kept walking, going to a room. And then all of a sudden, it's the next morning. And we're waking up, and she's telling me we're going to go around, using my ghost box on stuff like that, and going around to historical sites and all this other stuff we've been talking about doing, and saying that we found somebody to watch her grandson and we could go out and do these things. And I got really concerned, really worried because I forgot the ghost box. And I was kind of pissed, and so we walk out of the room, and I'm talking to her, walking out of the room, and I'm just in my underwear, except for some weird looking shorts that I probably would never ever wear. And clothes reflect what your mood is, or like in the Matrix, the manifestation of your digital self, like what Morpheus said, but it's the manifestation of your energetic self at that moment in time. Just a regular t-shirt and these creepy shorts that look more reminiscent of a diaper. I don't really know what the hell that was all about. And it had weird little patterns and stuff on them. Going, And it was basically it was energy highlighting like the nerves in the body. I'm thinking that's what it was, or somebody was playing a practical joke. I blame Isaac at this point for stuff like that because he's done it before, and we'll find out if he comes through later and mentions this. But kept walking and noticed you were going downstairs, came around and we're going down as I'm saying something. All of a sudden, the face began to change, the hair began to change, got shorter like mine and it just change. And then the person switched and started to look like me. And then I quickly realized, yeah, that wasn't you. That was, because Thorsden, Isaac's brother, looks like me. And he can switch faces and do stuff like that. Isaac does the same. He looks like me with red hair and a slightly narrower, narrower face. But yeah, they obviously they were there. The diaper routine was probably Isaac pulling a joke, and then the other one was Thorsden. So he was just being kind of creepy, and I was chewing him out for something of the whole scenario. But the way this makes sense too, what I mentioned in the very beginning, was the convoluted nature of having a scenario play out that would never play out, and including the Dreamtime invasion, including the message that was obviously being given to me, obviously for this episode. I asked to give me more information on that concept because I didn't know the origin point of it. What was being shown was that it was like a steady stream of like editing going from one scenario to the next. And Dreamtime Invaders can do it, but at the same time, and telepathic and AI and voice to skull, that's included. But aside from all of these narratives, this was something different that was flowing one thing to the next, trying to bleed other scenarios into like timelines into the scenario, and the story was playing out as I was going along, kind of like a holodeck character that didn't have a backstory on Star Trek, that the computer just starts to make up the backstory as it goes along. They showed that in Lower Decks one time. Brilliant, and that's like this scenario where it's being made up as you go along. This is where I'm at. Friends might have also reported this effect where they literally are talking to nothing, and they go all day with this. And this is different than the normal narratives that are put in the head, and it seems to strengthen around times of the full moon. Which the irony is not lost on me that they're werewolves and it's full moon tomorrow. But this happens all the time, except in situations, and I said this on a GIC that I recorded with Bjorn yesterday, whereas new moon, it seems to kind of block a little bit, and then halfway in between, you have like an area where you can do channelings safer. Then you have full moon where the faucet is on full torrent. This effect, other than the dumbing, other than the rest of it, seems to be happening continuous throughout, and increase towards full moon and decrease as this goes on, like throttling, like not necessarily just like a heartbeat, but like if you have streaming internet, that's throttling like this. That and also if you're file transferring on a hard drive from a hard drive onto your computer, and you get that throttling effect as you're transferring the file, that's the effect that it is. And one could argue that's a computer doing that. That could be the monolith that we were talking about in the AI deity episode of GIC as well. But this is where I'm at with this. This may seem confusing, but this is a concept that has an I don't know written on it, because it's obviously interlinked with all the other concepts we've ever spoken about, including the Nebelwerk, including Dreamtime, including Dumbing. But this I'm not the only one experiencing this. In fact, the more I started tapping into certain energies, the more I got into certain frequencies, is when I encountered this. And some metaphysical people would say, well, when you're approaching ascension, you'll get to what's called a junk layer. My mother and I always called it the junk layer. But I believe aside from that, where you just have a bunch of music running through your head, that's AI. You get to a certain frequency and you've tripwired that certain frequency, where then you incur not only the series of unfortunate events, but all the weird distracted thoughts where you can't get into meditative states and stuff like that. And people will also curse you in your timeline, by which then you'll remember something negative they've said, and then you can't get into that state either. and the AI will try to keep putting you back into that or back into a former self of yours. That's more in the Nebelvert conversation. You're going back into a former self of yours that you have to come to terms with in order to get out of the Chinese finger trap that the Draco or somebody else's or Orion's that put you in or AI put you in. This concept still differs from all of these. And when you get to a certain frequency, also health concerns will come up as well. And where you are forced, and Spirit has done this to me recently, Bjorn and I were talking about this as well, where then certain things will come up, and my grandfather participated in this, I found out, where I was being brickwalled, Spirit brickwalled, to take another left or right turn, not keep going forward on a path that I was on. He considered a health concern of mine that popped up as more of a collision course. So he told me that the energies were at such an extent that I was putting out, the body could not handle them in their current state. The brain could not handle it, and I was susceptible to not only the dumbing and the rest of those other things, but the Nebelvert concept was not allowing for poisons, toxins, other toxic energies, toxic objects, toxic entities, people. And that also goes into the splitting of the densities conversation. Meaning that's what Thorsen was trying to show me, not for her, but for a conceptual form altogether, that it too, a convoluted path that I was on was causing a splitting of the densities in a different area. And he wasn't referring to Joanna, he was just being a creep. It was just playing a practical joke, thinking that I would get creeped out seeing the face change. Meaning that it would also screw up relationships. It would cause rifts in other places, friends, family, all these things. This is what was being said with that. People might get creeped out and fixate on the severed head of the white buffalo, and I don't blame you. I'm just saying that was integrated into the totality of what was being shown, integrated with this concept. I know I went on for a little bit, but did you want to add, Joanna?
So I think, we've had these conversations before. So for many people, again, who are, more, let's just say, middle of the road, not really into these conversations, would probably look at, well, dreams are blah, blah, blah. And these are the things that your mind can do when you're dreaming. You're trying to rectify a problem. You're trying to, you're trying to do all of these, gain a message in, deal with, certain scenarios, deal with certain emotions. And so sometimes dreams and different things make no sense whatsoever, especially if you're just trying to, in your own mind, deal with, let's say, emotions or whatever, and be able to put them in their proper place. That maybe sometimes dreams really shouldn't just be paid much attention to. Sometimes people
past life information come up, be rectified to unconscious, subconscious, unconscious.
Right. So again, processing all kinds of things. Some people will agree, again, even in mainstream, that you could have tap into something that may give you a little bit of a prophetic dream, maybe, preparing for something upcoming or whatever. But I do agree with the concept that what we're actually talking about probably would not fall at all into the conversation that has normally been had about dreams. Not that I'm poo-pooing any of that, because I'm not. But what I'm saying is that when you walk into the area of your personal expansion of energies, being able to tap into more than the current medical sciences and their understandings of it, it's bigger. It is bigger than that, and this is where they are, but it's all bigger than that. So if you're moving into energies that are outside of it, it is easy that a regular mainstream conversation wouldn't want to categorize you as to somebody that is having maybe an issue or whatever that would need to medically be dealt with in some way or form. And I'm not going to even say that that doesn't happen, because we are living in a physical body and things can happen, okay, to you on a physical level, on a biochemical level, that you do need potential help and intervention. So I'm not poo-pooing any of this that's gone on.
Oh.
but I am acknowledging that there seems to be something else also not yet covered in that conversation. I do, again, like I said, here's medical science and understanding, but it's way more than that. And so, again, if you're starting to process things that are in that area that they are not yet understanding to be able to recognize and talk about it, then it can look a little bit strange. So I'm just acknowledging that right off the bat. I will say, and I've said it before, that I myself have had some really strange dreams and everything. Usually it's in the morning when I'm not saying I can't have dreams throughout the night that I don't remember, but I'm saying it's very interesting that some of these things are happening more in the early hours of the morning before getting up. And I will say there's a timing involved of when our Wi-Fi will turn back on. So, so I am extremely skeptical.
Because
Okay.
it could be the voice to skull frequency within and the AI frequency within
Right,
the Wi-Fi
that may be even enhancing whatever is coming along with the full moon, whatever is coming on, that it allows
Same
it to
thing.
magnify it even more. And you're picking this up. I say this because not everybody at all times are dwelling on all of these problems. We all accept that life seems to be more complicated now than it ever was, that a lot of stressors, that, many people will say there is a dumbing effect. I just watched something today. I was watching something and I've been waiting for it because, I was always skeptical about taking anything for an event that occurred a few years ago, was resistant to it because they were calling it a vaccine when it wasn't, and all of the potential changes when you mess with that part of the body. And now finally, mainstream media is having to recognize the fullness and the totality of what people would say the side effects now are that are rapidly showing, okay, with people that did go ahead. And again, the conversation will continue. Was there ever informed consent? I have a feeling, my feeling is there was never informed consent, and all the pressure to participate in this, that, and the other. And now, there's a spin also going on in the conversation. Well, the benefits outweigh the risk. That is, I'm just going to say that is not a provable statement. That is actually, how somebody wants you to believe. But, but there are now people suffering consequences that many of us were seeing anyway, that now they're having to acknowledge. And how are they going to spin that conversation to make it okay? I also feel that there were those factors involved that may have contributed to what I call the dumbing, where, the conversation was, what were some of this actually doing spiritually to people to break them down as well, and to make them maybe more susceptible, or to increase a timeline of a physical illness to make it come about more quickly, and different things by, certain changes to the body that were going to occur if you participated in that. And so it can't be hidden. The studies are enormous and are done across country with millions. This last one was 100 million people. And so this stuff is now coming out for conversation, and it needs to. Now, I would love to say that all mainstream media is making it a topic of conversation. What they're probably going to do is just quickly touch on it and move on, and try to facilitate the conversation in the way they want it. Like, everybody should know, if you put anything foreign in your body, you're at risk for something. You guys can't be stupid enough to think that everything is safe. So, again, a mechanism of a way to blame the people that they pushed it upon for, you have to take responsibility that you agreed to this, and so you did it. You cause your own problems. So I suspect that kind of spin. So I know I'm deviating a little bit, because I do believe now, again, narratives, conversation, what they want you to dwell on, what they want you to co-create, all of these things are happening. quickly, I will say, I think it's interesting that Chris had this wild little dream last night, because I had one of my own that didn't make sense to me, and which is actually, obviously, we're just bringing it up today. Mine was a bit interesting because, it, as people living in the United States know, everybody is thinking about our border issue and people crossing and the problems with that, and are there nefarious, organized nefarious things, coming across the border that will, so everyone's thinking about this. Not one person isn't, but I have to say, I do not live in an area where it's in my face. So we do not live in an area where this problem is in our face and that crime is in our face. And so we hear about it on the news. Certain parts of the country, certain places are having these horrific problems. It's not here. So it's not affecting me on a day-to-day basis. So what happened in my dream last night was basically Chris and I were somewhere. Now it I felt that it wasn't where we're living now, but we were somewhere. Could even have been in another country, but we were not in a place because we were staying somewhere else. Okay. We had gone, and I had gone to meet somebody. I'm going to say meet somebody that we were, let's say, working with, something like that. Come to this area where this person is, and there are tons of people. And then it's like standing up and seeing the sea of people. As far, like a flat land, as far as your eyes can see, you're looking at a sea of people. Now, what came to my realization is that the town that I was just in, or the little city, or wherever I was, had no idea. And what it appeared was getting ready to happen is because these people were kind of held back by police, military forces, whatever you want to say, but that there was going to be this opening of a gate that occurred. And these people were now going to descend upon this town that we happened to be staying in, or city, or whatever it was. And nothing was safe for anybody that was currently there. You just got this feeling that every home was going to be ransacked, any valuable that you had, if people knew, they would be leaving town like immediately because something not good was getting ready to happen. So in my mind, in this dream, what happened was, I was thinking, because we had a car, with us, and I didn't have any specifics in my mind about valuables, that were in the home itself that we were staying in. But, my mind was, oh my God, we better run back and grab a few things, you know what I mean, and get out of the way of this. So there was kind of the scene of trying to quickly get back. And it was kind of by foot wherever we were trying to go. And I know Chris, because Chris has some residual from his accident where he couldn't run fast or do whatever. But then the scene changed, and I'm back. We're back now. And the point of contact that we were there with was dead. Okay. But it was an interesting thing about that point of contact. I actually, again, deal in the area of people that are passing. So I've seen a lot of people that would pass. This particular visage of this person was not like a human who had passed. Neither was it, I would say, an alien that had passed. It reminded me of dead mechanics. Okay. So again, that could have been a conversation in my head where I was saying, this was AI, this was, or robot, or it was just weird the way it was. And then, the sea, let's say the sea, had begun of them allowing, it's like they were allowing these waves of people to come, that they were going to stop some, let the chaos ensue, then open and let more in, kind of like that. But then what was in the mind is, boy, how do we get out of this? And so in my mind, this is why I think, and was it even something that was happening here, is that I was looking for other people who were from the United States, English speaking, to find out, did they know where we should go? I hope that makes sense to people. Trying to figure out how do we now. So I don't know what I was seeing. I can tell you that I wasn't dwelling on this. I wasn't really thinking about this, but this scenario and this conversation was pushed into my mind. Now, you have different ways of looking at it. You can say, oh my God, something horrible is getting ready to happen. Oh my God, I need to, I'm going to start thinking about this over and over and over again, which means you're going to co create. Okay. So you have to understand when some of these scenarios come into your head, it is intentional to get you to dwell on it, to co-create the event, help with your energies to co-create the event. So, what I basically do is like, no, you know what I mean? No, no, I don't plan on being in a scenario like that. Do you see what I mean? So I think, what we're trying to say with some of the outside interference coming in and the mechanisms of how it gets you to dwell, to co-create, that you don't want to participate in it. It doesn't appear that everybody can be unsubjected to this. So I think it can be really confusing to people who are sensitive to getting premonitions or different things going on, that they could be being highly used right now, thinking they're seeing all these premonitions and they're focusing and they're doing whatever, but they may be talking about it, but what they may be being used to do is to co-create events. So I have to put that out there that, your reaction to some of these things, mine is usually, when I tell Chris, you're not going to believe, it's almost like, it was story hour and it was like, you're not going to believe the piece of crap that went through my mind right now. And what I was, listen to this crap. And so when I call it that, because again, I'm not going to want to buy into it or lend energies to it. And it was interesting about it too, because all of these things were going through my mind, but in part of my mind, I knew there was some, let's call it legitimacy. And I am air quoting that because we all know that there are parts of the world right now where these struggles of humanity are happening. So again, I've always said they use something real maybe to latch onto. So you sense there's something real, but then they also hijack people's senses and then maybe can get them to put energies towards something because they can't stop thinking about it or whatever. And they end up unwittingly, instead of denying it, absolutely not, I'm going on my day. Absolutely not. This will not happen. In fact, the opposite will happen. You know what I mean? That's happening, that you're accidentally now a part of lending energies towards something you don't want to. And I can't stress that enough because we've talked about it a lot. So I find it interesting that both of us had a very weird set of dreams that were going on at the exact same time. So, and again, as I've been saying for several shows now, I think I really want us to be as detailed as possible as to how we think people's co-creative skills are being utilized, not for your highest good potentially, and what you should do about it, so people can learn how to co-create for themselves and not for something else. So again, I am certainly open to hear anybody's comment out there about the dream. Am I even close to interpreting the reasons behind having it correctly? Is this a good example of how it's done, and what do we do about it? Those are the kinds of conversation follow-up that would be nice to have with somebody.
Yes, and also my grandfather did explain a little bit about the tripwire effect, where you do hit a certain frequency. Will they time certain ailments, like I said, with implants and stuff like that, when you hit certain frequencies? Yes, but I didn't realize how prevalent both the AI and the magical curse tripwiring garbage actually was. I didn't realize that the more you keep going on a path, this path for truth, it tends to come back around on you in areas you're not expecting. And also in the dreams, yes, I agree. It goes from the unconscious, subconscious, conscious, whereas memories will come out. SSP memories have done that for myself. quite prolifically. And I don't doubt that there's some scenarios, some places we're seeing are part of that as well. I don't doubt that our brain is latching on to maybe similar scenarios and also abduction scenarios and memory wiped areas. What they'll do is they'll kind of vacuum towards each other and create an amalgam of crap after a while. Those memory fragments will just get glued together. I've seen that before because it's trying to fill in the gap of what was taken. And I will also one thing I will say is, and I said this on a show with Ryan as well. Whereas people think, oh, that was taken out of your brain. No, it was in a different brain because they put your consciousness in there and it decoded differently and encoded differently over there. You come back, you're trying to bring an encoding and decoding to a brain that never experienced it. I know people have a hard time with that because yes, you did experience it as a consciousness. You did experience it as a person, as a human being in this expression, but they were different brains. Except if you were just drawn as yourself to that scenario. I do want to put that out there because that is a concept that has come to light recently. You may be forcing your brain to encode in a way that it wasn't meant to, or a magnetic field will come in and encode it to a state to where you can have both worlds coexist. I've seen that as well, or you'll have everything come back as it was. It just depends on the person and weather here. That's also intermingled into this conversation as well. That's another part of this equation that I didn't touch on before. But I know we've gone on a while with this, and since Isaac, I am assuming that you were the blurred face person in the dream that was creepishly in the back seat as the back seat driver. No, okay. Your brother. Okay. Well, your brother doesn't have reddish hair, but okay. We'll go with this for the moment. Thorsden was the one in that scenario. Yes. Okay. Is Thorsden willing to talk today, or is it you, Thorsden? Okay. I don't see him, but all right.
Again, for our highest good with no conflicting
No conflicting
agenda.
agendas. Yes, Thorsden, if you are willing to speak and there are no conflicting agendas, or Isaac, if he is unavailable, or both of you, shut up, Isaac. I'm not into three ways yet. Okay, you get in here if you're going to do that. Come here. All right. Okay. You were the one that was posed a question not too long ago, and you skirted it, and it was this. It was this topic. So I'd like to know why. Do that. That is what I'm asking now. And true benevolence with no conflicting agendas. Thorsten, if that's you, cool. Uh, I know you guys like to play practical jokes on me from time to time. He's the drier one with the more drier humor. Isaac is like the clown. So the clown can be over here. Okay. All right. Isaac, through the crystal, please. You don't have to go so slowly. I laugh because I kid and because I can, but this will be the last of the jokes for this scenario, unless a bad pun comes to me at some point, as he says. So says him. In this scenario that you all have picked up on is something that has never been touched on. Other aspects of this have. This aspect is not, and he can even feel the pressure on his chest now building because of this. Some is AI, some is telepathy, some is your maybe even another aspect of self from the multiverse. All of the above is true. With this specific thing where you are talking to nothing or you're coming up with the stories like this in your head, other than imagination, other than your imagination being hijacked, other than dimensional. This is something that is hard for a human mind to comprehend when the energies that are coming through. And it has nothing to do with any false earth change agendas, climate agendas, or any of those earth changes. It has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with one's own personal evolution and the tripwires by which that are being tripped by over very violently at times, I might add, by energies that surround yourself, are part of yourself. Also, SSP is part of this as well, as he said, and other aspects of self, other aspects and dimensional areas. But beyond that, it is mainly tripwiring. And tripwiring, the concept of this is, and you both have stumbled into this, and it can change your mental capacity on a dime. You get into a certain frequency where you're hitting either meditative frequencies. Series of unfortunate events is also the kind of the duh moment of the whole scenario. That's the external. Internal is where your personality even begins to change. May even reflect that of somewhere where you were in your past. SSP would be his, that it keeps hitting with this other Jekyll and Hyde type of scenario. But with that, the stories are being tripped by the fact that you are trying to proceed in a different area, and your mental capacity within this magic can be slowly rewritten. And it is not unlike what the Orions do when they put their own DNA into somebody, or when they put the vaccines into somebody, or what happened with COVID, where the personality changed a bit. It's not unlike this, but this falls under both directed energy and curse. Because say if you were in a jungle and you had a landmine that had a tripwire on a fishing line, like they usually would, like in Vietnam or any of those, Cambodia, any of those scenarios, and you were to trip that, one click usually meant arm. Two, boom. This is something that has happened once you you hit a certain frequency. That is the click. Once you keep going, that is the boom. That can turn into a health condition. That can turn into a complete mental state or mental breakdown. And if you're going through like a Nebelvert type of scenario, it can be 100 times worse. This is a separate conversation. You've probably noticed this in other people, that even the unvaxxed, and COVID did this too, because they're essentially the same thing. The fireman was also the arsonist. This is what Orions have done on other planets, where they've created the virus to create the cure. This is a common tactic. You see your cabal do this. You see your pharmaceutical companies do this by creating the condition by which the cure they create as well. Even my brother, when he incarnated as Tesla, created the very platform by which you also fight things now. Unfortunately, he got integrated into the for and against. Also, your purple plate technology fights 5G. Yes? Yes. Created the antidote before he created the thing. This is something he has to deal with himself. But this is why he appeared, because he wanted that said. But people that also remain in these other frequencies, which is a good thing, will also see people deteriorate around them, or see personalities of people completely change when you yourself have time locked yourself into the frequency by which you are currently existing. Say if you were in a suit underwater and you were seeing all the sea life existing around you, and you are a saltwater fish, and you were in a freshwater fish in a freshwater tank, seeing the two worlds collide. With the weird scenarios that have popped up, it is a conversion process that is taking place of one personality type over to a personality type, and SSP people will feel this even more. That's a clue where they've been, or alien abductees will feel this more. Anyone that's had their memory wiped will feel this a lot more. And this is an energy that is, if you could see this, would literally look like branches of a tree. Not unlike the Archangel tree conversation we engaged in on GIC, where it's the timelines that are touching and spreading further apart, like your Loki had the tree formation. The Archangel tree. Not unlike this conversation, Mandela effect is intricately part of this. The multiverse is intricately part of this. Dimensions are intricately part, and people existing as different lives in some of those dimensional states, and those other states, those other people that he talked about. Aside from that, it is literally like a flow of water mixed with a tree branch that flows through the mind. This flow, though seemingly natural, is 100% artificially based, but it is not artificial intelligence. It was generated dimensionally, but it is also not dimensional itself. It was a continuous signal or a continuous echo that puts people into echoes. This scenario then can change your personality over to an amalgam of, say, if you were SSP, it would be both of those personalities. Some personalities were vastly different. It's not unlike in your Strange New Worlds when Spock was turned into a complete human and the Vulcan was taken out for a temporary period, and those aliens didn't thought that there was something wrong there when he was a hybrid. No, this goes the other direction. This hybridizes personality traits. This is something you have not run in, that not spoken about. The best word I can come up with is echo. Echo, like if you went into the Grand Canyon and screamed as loud as possible, and it echoes back at you. This kind of signal has been ricocheting for millennia, but in this current time, and in this current, I don't want to use any of the terms, the event, the awakening, all this other nonsensical crap that I know damn well was generated in the program. This echo not only carries with it ancestry, not only carries with it all of the above that you mentioned, the dominating, which is something separate, but it still carries with it what it grabs. It is an echo of, how can I put this, an echo of not only self, but an echo of more creation, or an echo that was artificially generated a very, very long time ago by beings that felt that they had the right to experiment with personality itself. You have called these beings by something, a name in your metaphysical communities. They call them uncreationists, or universe killers, or something of that nature. This is not the topic. This is not the same topic per se. It is not what you're thinking completely, but there was somebody who generated this many, many eons ago, and there isn't a name other than that. I hesitate because this is new territory, but it does change because there's magic involved, and it does change a person's personality. It does change them over to something that they normally would not have done, like a Manchurian candidate sort of thing. But remember, it's grabbing the dominant, it's grabbing a hold of, if you're in your own personal Niebuhr work, it's grabbing a hold of health conditions and the tripwires associated with all these other magics. This has happened for quite some time now. In antiquity, it surfaced more as a sudden personality shift. Alien abductions had part of this. Again, all of whatever you've heard of is part of this. But the concept itself is a change, and it's not always for the better, or a stagnation, or a switch track of some kind. Now, health concerns will force spirit to brick wall you and take you in a different direction. This can mimic this too, but this was genuine with himself, with his grandfather. This, I will announce, there are many genuine things are genuine. And a brick walling is that you're forced to stop a behavioral pattern, and you have to go a completely different direction because you can't go forward in that particular timeline moment of yourself. This energy, like I said, is a flow. It is a magnetism. It is a uncreation and a creation. It is very vastly different than what you've encountered. In your DC comics, they would call it uncreation energy. And it is something, again, that was artificially induced by beings a very long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, I might add, that thought that what they create, they had the right to uncreate. And creation itself, They had a right to change and switch track. And it's not unlike the beings you saw separated both of you in the little experiment. It's a different grouping that from that same time frame, I might add, a long time ago. This has to do with this particular concept that AI, as he said, and Draco and any of these negative entities are taking full advantage of this, especially if you're going through a Nebel work, especially if you were in the programs, especially if you were abducted. It makes it 100 times worse. This is as best as an explanation as I can get. This is why I've waited this conversation, because it seems incomprehensible.
So if I heard you correctly, what you're saying is it was something that was implemented a long time ago that would allow the mechanism, it's like the mechanism that can allow the influencing of something that maybe is going to hold you back a little bit, change something a little bit, do something a little bit, instead of making your spiritual journey or your growth, kind of easy and straightforward. It makes it all over the place for even you as a spirit. And I'm assuming your higher self have to constantly re-gauge, recalibrate, redo whatever to try to work through the
hence the other variations on the theme that are within your own timeline that aren't going through this, or grab a hold of that energy and go bam and just get rid of the orbiting moon, as he likes to say, associated with this. Granted, people that were in time travel programs also see this more, and that creates its own set of issues, but this amplifies it 1,000-fold.
So just using what I said, because of my curiosity with the dream that I had, was there any part of that was what I was thinking, that it was an attempt to try to get your mind to co-create something or dwell on something or do something kind of push you into a little bit different thought direction?
Yes, that is accurate. You were getting, as he has said, bits and pieces of other things from other times and other scenarios that have kind of amalgamated into their own playette. That will happen as well, but trying to get you to co-create something or co-create a change that somebody else wants you to change. That is not for your highest good.
Right. So getting up and basically saying, well, that was a bunch of crap.
But it is for your highest good that you've seen it. So Spirit would argue that both are true in that scenario.
Well, I get that, because again, as we move forward in our journey, we have to know what's coming in that is just utter bullshit. And so you can basically say,
discernment, yes.
Because it's like saying, like you watch a bad movie. Well, that was an hour, 30 minutes of my wasting my time. I'm not going to think of you anymore. That's how you want to be able to be, is basically to be able to push some of this stuff aside and say, well, that has nothing to do with nothing. What we're talking about, I believe right now, is the mechanics of how they literally are able to get in. Because we said this a long time ago, and we didn't know the details. So I'm assuming this is more of the details, where we said a long time ago, many, many years ago, that there were the way the influencing occurs. What's the mechanics where you're taking a soul and all of their journeys, which again is over an enormous period of time. And how do you slowly move the needle a little bit? I'm assuming this is the mechanics of how you're saying that it is able to happen. Mm-hmm. And so instead of, obviously it hasn't been corrected or cured.
No, how this is corrected or cured is by not, how can I put it this way? It is by not remaining grounded in that other scenario. It's important you understand the logistics of it, like an alchemist testing out their own concoctions, like what he does with the product and all this other stuff. However, by catching yourself and regrounding into the reality you currently exist, into the expression you currently exist. Yes, search, look, but reground always here. If you catch this, where you're speaking to nothing, or you're fully engaged in that conversation and engaged in that echo, again, it can be other universes, other timelines. Yes, this happens a lot. Again, catch yourself in this scenario. Catch and then reground. This is how you snap out of that echo.
I gotta laugh, because multiple years ago, every now and then, It doesn't happen like it used to. And I know this is what an example you're referring to, that we could be sitting in a restaurant and just enjoying, our meal or waiting for our meal. And, you look up and you're watching TV or doing something for a minute. And then you look like I would look back at Chris, and every now and then he is talking to something. And
That's telepathy, just like you see in Star Trek, where like Troy and her mother talk
yeah,
back and forth. That's telepathy.
but sometimes you guys said slap them, like, like come back.
Some is the echo, yes.
Yeah, so I find it interesting because I think,
People have not gotten to the stage where they fully can converse and surpass the echo, yes.
well, that's what I'm saying. So I think you may have a little of the both, because before it was like, this like bring them back, like I always used to joke, he was like a balloon, right, trying to float off, and I was holding the string trying to bring him back down.
You said kite at the time.
Kite, and then correct, and then so I think this is an interesting conversation because I always
A jet stream that you get the kite caught in, yes.
yeah, so it's an interesting conversation to add to other conversations that we had, that we knew it was happening.
It's through the Earth nexus, see, so therefore it can come from another time frame by which it originated as well. It will always regurgitate because the nature of time is regurgitative from any point in history and any point in the multiverse as well.
And I think so. This is a really good example because if this is happening because of this particular reason, let's say, it's not like this great healing needs to be done. It just needs to be ignored in some sense. You know what I mean? Where it's allowing for an amalgamation of things that maybe happened in the past, or a scenario from something that really did happen in another place that maybe you were involved in. But it's like taking these pieces and then trying to giving you a scenario to try and alter you a little bit.
Yeah, and alter you as well. Senses don't mean to interrupt. It's just like your series echo that's on right now where the person's deaf. That's why I chose the name. There's a message in there for you, by the way, with your own scenarios as well. But in this, it can blind other senses to unknowing to the person as well.
Right. And so, people would have a tendency, if they are somewhat aware of this, somewhat aware of healing, somewhat aware of being abducted or taken somewhere, you would take in some of the stuff as saying, I need to look at this. I need to dwell on this. I need to do, and really what you need to do is completely ignore it.
Look, don't dwell, but there are times where you are to ignore and not look too.
Yeah. So I think, again, I'm acknowledging the complication of this. I'm acknowledging the fact that, you wouldn't necessarily want to, what I mean, go further, look at it. I've always been skeptical, as I've always been quite skeptical about looking at too much. I didn't know why. I guess this is one of the things maybe I didn't officially know about, but some part of me knew about, because I've always been skeptical. It's like, well, how does that help me right now? And should I be rejecting it because it's not what I want right now? And hopefully people can think about some of this stuff. I appreciate this conversation because I feel it does help me give me better understanding, because no, people are not necessarily, let's just say, going crazy. This again is something else, and a layer of something else going on. But it doesn't mean, in my humble opinion, that it has to ruin your life. It's almost like finally getting some of the fine print of the rules of our existence. You're having a human experience that, and this is a part of it too.
Yes, and you don't also need to be in the echo. And him and I just came up with a new title for this called The Babbling, because the brain babbles. He was even shown on, again, in the ghost box scenario where I put in there, your brain babbles, meaning this is the echo. You see,
right?
And the brain babbles. So I suppose you could link it to the dumbing and calling it the babbling, but that's my opinion.
Well, I agree, because I can tell you, personally that, and I had said this, we had said this before, that you should be proud of yourself if all of your brain is all the crap going through it about relationships and not getting along and doing whatever. But then when the moment comes for you to interact, that you actually interact in the way that is a positive way for you, and you've ignored all this crap in your head. So this is where you want
Yeah,
to
you can't
go.
ignore the good stuff and discard it and throw the baby out with the bathwater either. And this is also what causes his profusive downloads that I get fed up with. He notates things with a device that also has the AI tonnage in there that he has used for also paranormal research. This would also echo back the babbling whenever in use. So yes, it would cause a continuous back and forth and back and forth, mirror, 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 and it can then increase like a perpetual motion machine, and therefore you have the babbling.
Right. So it seems to me if we would have to say, how do you maneuver your way through this one? That it would be, you need to, again, the word is being grounded, but being grounded, but what we would include in what does grounding mean is what you want. Meaning, I want good relationships with people. I want to be treated well, so I treat others well, right? I can stand up for myself when I need to. I can do it in a way that I can get my point across and I can get it across energetically, defend myself. But no, I don't have to be shooting people, beating people, punching people. You're doing it that way.
Depends on the people.
I agree. But, in general, again, but these crazy, just everything scenarios would maybe sometimes want you to think that a conflict is going to occur when a conflict does not even need to occur. So, you need to ignore some of that. You really do need to ignore some of that, be grounded in the experience that you want. And again, the importance of being grounded in the experience of you want where you currently are, and having the relationships with your neighbors or people around you or people at the store, whatever, that are good, and you know what I mean, and again towards an experience of what does more of a unity and understanding look like, versus I think things that are trying to pull you back to be what the TV's trying to tell you. We're all this lawless craziness, which is really what part of what my dream was. Like, here comes the lawless craziness right now. And to say no to it. It's not going to be that way. It's not the life I want. It's not how I'm going to conduct myself. However, don't be stupid and don't defend yourself. You can't keep turning the other cheek. You must actually assert yourself to the type of relationship, working relationship, personal relationships, boundaries. You must do that, but you can find common ground with many more people than you think. It's more of the regular people could find a way to get along, and you got to find a way to deal with some of these crazies that are in control.
Yes, yes, and definitely do that and be grounded, but don't be ground up like you're shredding your own personality in the process. He does this because there is this other variation, let's just say, of himself from the secret space program, whereas there are certain tendencies that bleed through from there, from training there, which are there are good ones. You can take the good uh, and usage here, just like he does his sessions with the training that took place there. Good. What is not good is it turns into Manny faces from He-Man, where it flips. This is also the dumbing taking place. This is also magnetic fields and other energies, and this echo or babbling that is causing the other to seep in. This will eventually fuse and become corrected. But people in the SSP have run into this exact scenario, but have not talked about this because they're afraid of how people would view them as either a perp, an agent, somebody that would have a handler, or somebody that would not be speaking truth. What if that other voice was some kind of sleeper agent or what have you? All of them question this. All people involved in the programs question this. And also what you saw in your dream with the upheaval and all this other stuff. This is coming from those times. Whereas you saw plans in the background that some have come through to fruition, others will not. It's a variation instead of variables and variants that you saw back there and that are crunched up. That's part of that scenario. It's things that were witnessed and plans that were witnessed. Just like if somebody saw a file laying on a desk or something and they remember the name, like the whole pandemic thing, they saw the file. Different than some of the other stuff that you were talking about, but it's still part of this echoing or this babbling that's taking place as well, because the mind is coming to terms with decoding the other encoding, decoding scenario from back there. It's crunching the numbers, basically saying this reality is different but the same. But the similarities, and the differences are equals, and then the brain is trying to calculate. It's like the holographic doctor in your Voyager, where he ran into a scenario where one person lived and one died, and he was going through this babbling scenario. They said it was a recursive error in his program, and they tried to erase the memory associated with it. The same goes with some programming. Sometimes you take the memory associated with it, so the programming vanishes. Just like your Rutherford character, where he had in Lower Decks, where he had the other part just delete himself because it was causing a recursive error in his own personality. This is the same scenario with anybody that was in the programs. I'd like to say that that's a quick fix, one and done. It's not. This is something where you have to pick and choose what you use, what you choose to become. This as part of this rebalancing. In this, like I said, become grounded. Don't ground up your own true soul's personality in the process and become something other than what you truly are.
Well, thank you. So, there have been some subjects, again, the Secret Space program is one of them, that Chris and I haven't spoke about much, because our goal is to contribute into the conversation in a positive way that promotes healing. And we've been at a loss. I think this, for those people that are involved in that, hopefully this conversation today will give some better understanding. But, the importance is to, again, ground, look at your life right now, be able to be less influenced by all of that, to be who you are, to move forward. And that is success. And it is not, again, a popular stance, but the triggers and the different things that are there to pull you back and to change your personality, they are great. And again, there is no current, as you said, cure or answer to some of this. So hopefully you can get something from what we're saying. Something will click and make sense of what you should be focusing on, and help you be able to look at this and reject some things that are going on in your thoughts to be the person you want to be right now. And as you're saying, not be pulled back into personality traits that really aren't who you are. And again, then you would be co-creating ineffectively for somebody else right now if you were doing that. So I hope it gives you. So I know we've talked a while. We want to keep this balanced and short. Anything else you want to say before we go?
Yes, you said short as well, because he was actually correct. I did put a diaper on him, but that was actually a poof joke. But with the creepy patterns on it, he was right. I was actually showing him some stuff with his leg, and this is actually context. There's some issues with his leg, and these were things bleed through from back there. These were injuries from back there, the knee included, but it attracted a scenario. Let's see. And that was also SS people trying to retrieve him. His grandfather lovingly put a brick on that. But the thing with his leg is an echo from that time. You've heard of phantom PTSD, but you've also heard of phantom injuries, where else he had marks on his arm that started to reflect weird stretch mark burn patterns as well. After a while, and in back there, he had to have his arms healed from a horrific burn injury on another world. Let's see. So, with that said, the same is with the leg. This was a horrific gunshot to the leg that had more of a rip tear effect. It's an echo. These are the echoes from this time frame. It will wink in, wink out, wink in, wink out, but the memory of it is associated with the injuries. Therefore, when the memory is rectified, the injury disappears. Just like with the arms. This is why you always see them itching. Itchy over here is itching the wound that was from back there. Also from the surrounding energies, it's making it amplified. This echo, the dumbening, all of it is making it amplified, and therefore he's turning to itchy. So this is it's also the energies of the technology as well. I'm not completely dumping on it, but the thing of it is, I did the whole thing with the whole. He always comments It feels like he's wearing a plastic diaper because of the nerve messed up, the sciatic nerve. That's what that feels like. So therefore, I figured I'd play a joke on him and put a diaper on him in that scenario. That the fact that he also has gastrointestinal issues. Uh, so I will throw him under the bus for the final words in this. This is where I add humor to this. This causes the grounding more to take place. Hence the name that I have chosen, Isaac, he who laughs. So, so this, uh, so this is why I do the things that I do, because he himself and my brother and others played practical jokes on me in the Dreamtime scenario for him by turning me into a giant slimy bug that had crap all over, dripping off of me. And he thought that was my bug version. And I said, no, somebody is making fun of me. So we just do this back and forth all the time. So, and you got to look for those too. Usually it's clown imagery or some like he had the weird cloud pattern on the diaper. So that's why I did that. So, well, I will cut this off at this point in time. Thank you, everyone, and blessings. I won't stop running right there. This happens when the energy comes up. This is also an echo. This thing's part of an echo as well, because this is the eye in which the consciousness transfer needle appears. This is the dominant eye right here. When they put the sheet over and they transfer consciousness to the other body, this is what he was talking about as well, where this tear duct will not stop squirting this gray crap all over my glasses. And when I realized that, that portion started to dump down. But then this happens when I access certain energies because echo. So that's what I wanted to bring up. That's why if people keep asking me why I'm doing this. That's why. And that appears during sessions. It also appears because of past life echo information as well. Things that are mirroring things that need resolve. And dreams are supposed to be the resolve of the dark night of the soul. Dreamtime invaders try to get you to do anything but. To try not to resolve these things. Hence, they're opportunists that will try to delay and stagnate. Some are part of nature, like ghouls. They clean up death energy. Other ones are just assholes. So that's our routine on that topic. We've discussed that ad nauseum, but it bears repeating. So, Joanna, do you want to add anything else?
No, I hope everyone thought this was an interesting conversation.
Okay. So I now am closing the circle within true benevolence with no conflicting agendas. As of this moment in time, I thank everybody for watching this episode and all our various little brandings we have out there, and subscribing to galacticinterstellarcouncil.com, where we have expanded conversations over there and unique ones people have not heard ever on time travel, on stuff like this, all of that. So please go look at that. So thank you, everybody. Bye-bye now.
Oh, another example of how Isaac and them have manipulated mods, or manipulated like AI type generative, that would be mods. If you look at the original New Vegas recording me and Ryan did, we always asked him to do something in the game that was associated with a message. And the original one in New Vegas was, Fallout New Vegas was where it had to do with both alien and military abductions, basically saying that aliens came first. You see aliens first, and then ultimately it was the military abducting it. That's what the message was in that. If you go watch that, it's kind of choppy because the connection wasn't great, but you'll see what Isaac was trying to say. That it was actually them doing abductions at the time we were recording that, and overall message in generality. So I'm going to stop here. It is 9:02 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Saturday, February 24th, 2024. Thank you. Oh, another thing that's been inserted in the head is all of a sudden I'm on a spaceship, and these people are trying to find people that had adrenochrome addictions, and Laverne ends up being one of them. Not that he willfully did it, but people inadvertently did it. There was a story of a woman that went to the doctors, wondered why her body was falling apart, and the miracle drug that she'd been given was an adrenochrome test, and she ended up ultimately dying. I mean, that could be a passing story, like these narratives, but then I'm yelling at the doctors like, find a cure, find a cure, find a cure. Oh no, we've tried every variation, we just let them die. I was like, well, no, that punishment's reserved for the worst of the worst, the ones that actually committed the crime. And adrenochrome is essentially that race from Babylon 5 that basically became immortal, and they told, the last one told humanity they would have to basically eat each other to become immortal. That's the secret of it. But in this, or in Jupiter Ascending, where you see them basically looshing whole planets and collecting the soul shards. But I yelled and even put a gun to the one person's head. They were completely unwilling to try to find it, saying it was impossible. Oh, it slowed down all biological processes, and the body became fully dependent on it, which is true for adrenochrome. And could have pulled off my knowledge of it, and AI could have. But then it was threatening to basically torture the guy if he didn't do anything, and ended up spacing him. Shooting him and spacing him out in the airlock, like you see in The Expanse where they space people. And that's where that ended. But that just happened. So I'll add this to the show. But it's pretty creepy. So there's some recent celebrities I saw that had adrenochrome withdrawal. They tried to say it was a form of dementia. I'm not going to say the names, obviously, but it's the same thing that pops up because they're being denied adrenochrome. So that's what I scanned and looked and saw that. So also another form of this babbling is OCD behavior. That's why we created revocations for OCD behavior, revoking OCD behavior, because of the fact that that's part of it. People's brains actually have to have certain things aligned, just like books on a shelf. Labels have to face them. Do things in threes, even though people thought that was holy. Which remember, the Orions can bastardize that, and opportunists, like what was said, and also my mother would keep dust on a TV screen on Hartley Street and also on a black glass TV stand, because any little deviation she then had to dust the whole thing. It was anal retentiveness, so I would go over and make a smiley face on the screen. One morning she woke me up at 5:30 a.m. and said, clean the motherfucking thing off. It drove her crazy. Just like I had games sitting on a shelf where I would just pull one out just to mess with her. And she would always take 3 sips of water, do things like that, and I had to break her out of that. She's like, well, I'm being told I have to. That's abuse of this babbling or echo. So, see what I mean? It's good to do things in patterns, but at the same time, you don't want to always do things in patterns, like the Muslims with the constant prayers. True benevolent source creator hears you the first time. You don't need to do 50,000 of them. Just like any of the cultures that do things in repetitious patterns. Like with the Tibetans, they'll do it for meditation, to keep the mind occupied. That's the good side of it. Keeping things, doing something like in a religion, like Christians are always having to be afraid of not talking about maybe the Jesus story not being real, because they're thinking they're going to be smited by some god somewhere. That's a fear pattern of OCD. That's a fear pattern that is also part of this babbling. So, you see where I'm going with it? So, I'm going to end that there, but I know Isaac just got done saying don't do these, and I did one of these. So, something is forgotten, I have to notate it. So, I suppose I don't have to, but you know what I'm saying. It is 12:26 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Saturday, February 24th, 2024. Thank you. Oh, when Isaac thinks that I'm actually doing the babbling too much, he'll put a circus carousel around my head with gears that turn in opposite directions. It's the geometry of trying to realign, essentially. And I hear that circus song from The Simpsons, that do 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 do, like when Homer basically says, "Okay, I basically that's it. I'm going to clown college." That. So that's what the reference is for. So if I hear that song, it creates its own loop, but it's a distractive loop, like what Tibetan monks do when they just focus on just an action. That's what they're trying to get rid of, is the babbling. So this is what I wanted to clarify. So it is. When he goes like 3 or 4 tiers, with gears that go in opposite directions. Essentially, that's etheric realignment. When you see the gears, when people use that in healings, and also Mandela Merkaba type of alignment. Essentially, he's making it look like a friggin' circus carousel with the horses and the little unicorns and the like the old carousels that sometimes they have the dogs and the cats and all the little porcelain or plastic Bakelite characters and stuff like that from that time, or the porcelain ones from a while ago, things of that nature. So it is, and paper mache and all that crap, circus stuff. So it is, and amusement park stuff. So it is 2:20. There's 2:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time Saturday. It's 2:20 Eastern Standard. Damn it! It is 2:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time Saturday, February 24th, 2024. Thank you. What I find interesting is also disclosure and integration of different symbols, shapes, things of that nature. I made stickers on our store for GIC through Printful. That's what I go through. That's the shirt I'm wearing here. This guy. And what Joanna pointed out is some of the color schemes I went with were Tibetan color schemes. Before them was Tartarian color schemes. And who uses Tartarian color schemes? Both the military and Star Trek. So, with the loud colors like this. So I was instinctively doing that, and also the eagle eye images that I saw pop up, or the eye pointing outward. It's a symbol now, but it is a etheric protector. So somebody integrated that in, like selling salt lamps, for instance, at the store. Somebody was countering them also selling Ouija boards and things of that nature, because that salt counteracts things that would come through those other sources. See, so it's faction versus faction. You're seeing, boom, boom, boom. Somebody benevolent, somebody malevolent. So yeah, Star Trek has the Tartarian scheme because of the old Enterprise versus the new old Enterprise. Just like Boimler said, old ship, new ship, old ship, new ship, first ship, second ship, kind of thing, in Strange New Worlds. Granted, they basically, their excuse is temporal Cold War, but you see where timelines got shifted, changed, things erased, changed. That's also Tartarian. So, yeah. Some people are probably thinking, red shirt, really? Protective color, warrior color, also that's why I cover screens and crystals with. Crystals that have been either infected or gazing balls or crystal balls. I cover our TV that way. I've said that before. Like the Seeing Stone in Lord of the Rings, where Gandalf covers it and said, we don't know who could be watching. That's why. It's an old witch's trick, too. This, and also I have black like the pirate flag here. I may make a pirate one at some point as well. But these are our protection symbols. You see these pop up. The Merkaba, and here. The disclosure there, also people have integrated into these templates that you find. Even Viking imagery, preserving a culture, but it's very popular now. Anyway, I've seen Thor, I've seen Odin, stuff like that on there. So these things are popping up. I know AI is synchronizing that up, so I see it too, but Spirit is as well. And also the synchronicities playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I've been seeing Viking stuff from my own Souls history. This is also, Joanna pointed out, I also have another one. There's one that was Starship Yellow. Obviously somebody was saying Captain Kirk. This is Alzarin Red. That's Middle Eastern, but that's the same red they used on the old Trek. So they're putting these things out there. I just named it Starship Captain Kirk, in quotes, Yellow on there. But these things are out there because somebody's putting that history out there in subtle ways, but also loud ways. So, message understood. So, I'm putting that out there, and I've been advised doing no more of these little recordings, like what Isaac was saying, the babbling. So, there's triple threes, there's the triple trinity kind of thing. You see where the AI is getting involved, folks, after a while, with the babbling. That's where it integrates. So, with your 11, 11, 2, 2, 2, 2s, 3, 3, 3, 3s, and 4, 4, 4, 4s, 5, 5, 5, 5s. You know what I'm saying. So, it is 2:31 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Saturday, February 24th, 2024. Thank you. Oh, Trek switched to the colors after a while to get rid of the red shirt stigma. But when the new series, as the new Trek came back out, they reintegrated it. You know, the red shirts always die. You know, just like Family Guy said at one time when Captain Kirk was announcing, "Oh, I got Dr. McCoy, Captain or Commander Spock, and Ensign Ricky," and he went, "Oh crap!" He was wearing a red shirt. That was the joke. Seth MacFarlane is into Trek, and he's even been in Trek, and also Orville, all that. So, just wanted to say this negates the joke because it's protection. I know it's an oxymoron from the Trek standpoint, the old original series standpoint, but it is what it is. We even joked in the episode The Apple with the evil AI that's in it, ironically enough, and well, some friends of mine and I joked that we see all the red shirts walking around. We always see, "I foresee death in your future," and then one blows up because it's like a landmine. That apple red, meaning Garden of Eden, but and the AI or snake that was introduced, that's what Roddenberry was trying to say with that, and overbearing AI stagnating a culture. But the red shirt joke now has been negated with this, just in case Trek people, Trekkies, Trekkers, see this as an oxymoron. Also, difference between Trekkie and Trekker. Trekker, somebody who cosplays, somebody who likes a show, etc., etc. Trekkie, occultist type that they formed a religion around. I always thought William Shatner was being a jerk, but he was actually justifiably correct with the that other group. I didn't know about the other group. So, two types out there, which shows how it can go out of control in its negative yin-yang polarities. One can go out of control, one is fine. It happens, the duality seems to be everywhere with that. So, it is 2:34 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Saturday, February 24th, 2024. Thank you. Oh, and Cavalryman Civil War also had the color scheme that they had then. Red would be armory, gunnery, cannon operator. Yellow would be command. Blue would be medical. That's how they did it then. And some of the current military do little pips that way or little badges that way. And the cavalry had it on their shoulders. So that's another area they got it from, was U.S. cavalry and cavalrymen in the old Custer's time. Also, Scotty's shirt is red too, but he's more security. He's the chief of security. Well, he's sometimes chief of that, but he's also chief engineer as well. So they flipped it to have security be yellow, like in that area, like you see in lower decks. So he was also a war veteran, stormed on beaches in Normandy, lost one of his middle fingers. That's why you see a hand model for him in the old Trek. Those aren't his hands. He lost one of his middle fingers, I believe, on his right hand. He got shot off at Normandy. So he was already in like a soldiering position, warrior, red. So I think that's interesting myself. But also, what's funny is my mother, Laverne, and little Kieran think this is orange. I think they're blind. It's labeled Alzarin red because I wore another shirt. Well, this one. They seem to think that's a shade of orange, not a shade of red. I see where that kind of is, but this is bright red. They're probably screwing with me, but I looked at it and said orange and blue. Like, no, it's red. No. So we're going to see. I'm going to ask his father on that one. But it's labeled Alzarin red, Middle Eastern red, Tartarian red. So just like the Tibetan flags, protection flags that I towed there in the yard, and I talk about. Look that up on dharmashop.com. You're going to know what I'm talking about. They're interesting. So it is. They're good. So it's 2:49 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's 2:50 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Saturday, February 24th, 2024. Thank you.
Okay, another example of like that babbling. South Park, if people remember, where Stan and them would make Cartman sing the rest of the lyrics to a song, they're like, watch, he can't not sing the rest of it. I'll say a piece of it, and then sing a piece of it, and then he'll have to do the whole thing real fast, and he speeds through and goes, through the whole thing, when they want to fuck with him. So if he's being a dick or an asshole or something, so because he's one of the most manipulative characters in the whole series. But that is another part of the babbling where people feel compelled that they have to do something. I do that too, where I used to do it with the labels.
would have to face me, or I'd have to sit a certain way, or sometimes even fiddle with my thumbs, in a certain way, where I had to press the nails together, or I had to press my fingers away a certain way. I would do it to ground too, as more ritualistic, but at the same time, or flip the thumbs in a particular way or something. At the same time, it became OCD, so therefore it fell under the whole mind babbling thing. And Isaac kept telling me to stop it, very much like he's telling me to stop it with this. So it is. I'll leave it here. So it is 5:54 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Saturday, February 24th, 2024. Thank you. Another OCD that I've had is there's this weird chewing that comes up. SSP veterans sometimes have it. Stroke victims have it. Alien abductees sometimes have it. And also the energy meridians in the jaw, when they get clogged, that's when you start chewing like this, because you're trying to get release the energy around. And then somebody is trying to squeeze out a straw or a tube or something like that. This is interesting. And also legs too. I do a weird leg crossing and toe thing where I do this weird unified, toe bending. I'm trying to also release energy in the foot and reground, but at the same time it becomes OCD. Also the aliens that were mentioned in that program, in this program you've seen. I compare them to more of the first ones on Babylon 5, where you had first ones like Lorien, or the first one like him, and then you had then the Vorlons and Shadows in this. You want to see the reference, go watch the show. It would take too goddamn long for me to go through it. Maybe that's a show at some point. I'll see if Ryan's up for that, or Richie's up for that, or somebody's up for that, because or Bjorn's up for that, because I think that would work out really well. And yeah, this is oh wow, mind wipe. Yeah, when I mentioned that, some people will think I'm referring to the Anunnaki or Builder Giants. I'm not. I'm referring to the ones that actually were more architects of creation itself. That came from, if you watch one of our talks with me and Joanna about the map of creation, whereas they go from energy, celestial, to physical form, like the Titans did for Earth, that's who we're referring to. Then also you have giants that were workers like Nephilim that would build on Earth, and also you have the Anunnaki that did the genetic engineering. We're referring to the earliest possible thing, like the first ones in Babylon 5. I wanted to actually clarify that. So if people were thinking, who are we meaning? Creator, Council, who are we meaning? Now, Odin and Thor and the rest of them, were they around at the time some of those beings were? Yeah, in some form. Yeah. It was millions of years ago versus just hundreds of thousands. The other one was billions of years ago. So, yeah, Thor and Odin then still fall under Anunnaki, but it was millions of years ago where I saw them sitting around a council table trying to see if they could get around the Ragnarok. And they couldn't. Talk about fated thing, like in the other conversation, fate, like on GIC. It was a fated thing, destiny, yes, because it was a temporal crossroads. That's what the Ragnarok was. Asgard survived, obviously, but still, the physical version of it that was not the dimensional version blew up. And that was one they call Maldek. That's a reptilian word meaning ours conquered, our territory. Kind of like Maldek. Like Shadrach means fuck in their language. It's another explanation. Shadrach would be fuck. Maldek would be ours, mine. Like a kid going mine. And on Babylon 5 reference, one of the Narn that Sheridan helps out escape from an alien abduction scenario. They look like Greys. He screams Shadrach in it. Another reference. Again, I could go on for that for hours. I want to do a show set on Babylon 5 at some point. It would be great. Star Trek 2, a lot of material. Probably not going to happen because it's too much. If you want to see something like that, please let us know, and we can specify as to an area of it, like I just said about the first ones. So I will let this go now. It is 7:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Saturday, February 24th, 2024. Thank you. Okay. There's a couple more OCD behaviors, and then I'm going to be done with this. I realize this is babbling, but what's the name of the episode? The Babbling. So I'm babbling. this is a rare opportunity that I get to actually go on, and I should not, but some of these weird behaviors people pick up, and Joanna started picking up a behavior where she kept rubbing this part of her forehead and doing this, and that came from me. It was like rub off from me, or empathic transference from myself. Now, you do pick up that kind of stuff from ghosts and all of these things. But I also sit there and have to do this with my beard and do this, but with both hands. I have to do this and then this. It has to be symmetric, or I stick my hands down the sides of the couch and have to have them both there equally and pull them out. These are things you have to fight through grounding. You can't be doing this crapola. It's not smart to keep that up. Like my mother always thought she had to take 3 sips of water. I grabbed the glass from her on like 1.5. She's like, and then she thanked me for it later on because the spell broke. Like having to constantly revocate, for instance. When we were going in and out of that neighborhood with the smart meters, with the AI influence in it, the AI brain like influence that was in there, and I kept having to go in and out, and eventually I gained an immunity to it. This is also possible to gain an immunity to. So, like Isaac was saying, just you have to reground and catch yourself. I have to reground and catch myself. And if these videos are too much with this episode, yeah, to be fair, it's called the Babbling. So, I will minimize and or eliminate that for other episodes. But with this one, whenever I thought of a behavior, I displayed it. This, and I'm saying it, so this, I'm just saying it because other people may have these issues. And by talking about that, they may be more conscious of those issues. It's like I would cross my legs all the time. It was doing damage to my knees, it was doing damage to my hips, but I was doing it anyway and I couldn't stop. I sometimes will cross the legs over while they're out on the little reclining ottoman. And I'll have to go back and forth and back and forth to make it symmetrical. That's also part of that behavior. I got to cut it out. But a massage therapist friend of ours told me that, yeah, you have to consciously be aware of that behavior. And when by eliminating that, you're regrounding away from that. And that's true. I never crossed my legs again this way, like the normal way. Never did it again. It was throwing my back off. It was throwing my knees off. It was throwing hips off. It was throwing everything off. And I would do it thinking that I had to go the other way to balance it out. And she did say if I did end up doing it, I would have to do it for the other one to balance it out too. Also, I noticed she was very OCD. I left my socks on during a massage session one time. She kept having to straighten the labels to make sure the labels were out. She goes, sorry, I'm this way. I know I'm consciously trying to get rid of this, but. And just like my stepfather and mother. Does that go there? When I take things out of the dishwasher, it can be obnoxious. But then I have to remember, I've done these things too. Just like I saw a stand-up of a lady one time. She goes, doesn't matter what partner you have, and she was a lesbian comedian. She goes, doesn't matter what type of partner you have, there's always somebody that said, does that go there? And my mother was like that too, to the anal retentive side. Not as fastidious as before, but for their own space, yes. For their own little space, yes, not the rest of the house. Joanna was like that too. Everything had to be put away, out of sight, out of mind. Me, on the other hand, there's some things I keep out for long periods of time, and it drives people crazy. Yes, these are the dynamics between men and women, and OCD and non-OCD. There's OCD and anal retentive people. They're slightly different. Anal retentive is everything, has to be exactly, OCD have to be exactly perfect. Anal retentive is just you're overly thorough. But imagine a combination of both of those. Then you're a monk at that point with Tony Shalhoub, and my mother absolutely hated that show. where I mean, Sherlock Holmes is one thing where he knows detail. Then you cross over into anal retentive OCD, uh, 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 almost like a complex. Then you have Monk. That is annoying. Or you have like Hercule Poirot, which is kind of a mix between the two, and he had to measure his eggs to make sure they were the right height. And then he'd say, "You don't know the torture sometimes this can be." Yeah, if I get a download, it's the same kind of torture. I understand the character's pain in that way. Very, very much so. You don't know, people that are normies basically wouldn't understand this aspect, or if they do, it's to a more minor extent. I might be being harsh, because I've been known to say awake, awake and unawake, or magical versus muggle, and Joanna hates it when I do this shit. I get it. She says even tonight she was here to reground me. I said people that aren't born into this wouldn't understand the full dynamics of it versus ones that came into it later on, like her. She goes, well, maybe that's the reason we're together. One of the reasons is to reground, because I told her about somebody I saw online that even slipped and said mugs. Damn mugs, they don't know what they're sending people like us. They don't know that they're injuring people like us with just their mere existence and their mere, thought patterns. Joanna equates that to Enlil hearing the noise of humanity and wanting to flood the earth. So you see the dynamic there. I get both sides of this. I don't condone what Enlil did because of all that, or what some of the mythology said. He also said he drowned all the Nephilim too. Fact of the matter is, it's somewhere in between both those. But also the fact is, this other person was not wrong. It can cause people like us physical injuries. Also, if people start focusing on people like us, she always says, don't let thoughts of others bother you. Sometimes the mug community doesn't really give you much of an option in that area. They don't really stay their hand, essentially. And then when you fight back, they'll go, oh my God, what are you doing? You gaslit this. No, I swear we didn't. Well, in some cases, they do. I don't focus on the ones that are unknowingly. The unknowingly, it's a pain in the ass. Knowingly, those are the ones that you want to set on fire with your thoughts, like the girl from Carrie or Carrie, Firestarter movies. They're all gonna laugh at you, and then they all get burst into flames, and they're dying. So, yeah. So that's about the dichotomy right there, or the juxtaposition between both sides there. So I will need to end this, or I could literally go on and 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 babble. I'm done babbling. This has been an episode called The Babbling. If this becomes annoying, please tell me. And even at that stage, I may not be able to completely stop doing this. Ever since before I got sick in late 2021, October 2021, this started in this fashion. I have not been able to get it to completely stop. It's been useful, but it's been obnoxious to me as well. It's just like Jack Nicholson in As Good as It Gets. He's hopping through like New York, trying not to step on the cracks in the sidewalk, and there's a ton of them. He goes, in this city, a person like myself, and he's trying to get on medication to and I know it was a chick flick, but my mother was around when that was playing, and I remember that scene when I was younger. So, yeah, that I'm not quite that bad, but you get what I'm saying. So, I even forwarded a video to a friend of ours of your brain at 1:30 a.m. or 2 a.m. and it's just Jonathan Frakes basically saying, have you thought about this or thought about that? Do you know about the pyramids? Do you know crop circles? Do you know the life lies beyond life after death? Or those memes that show your brain at 2 a.m. Skulls can be used. Dead people's skulls can be used as maracas. Shit like that. That's me. So, yeah, it can be hell, but but I wouldn't trade what I know for the world. So, I'll leave that here. It is. I wouldn't trade what I know at all. Even the information about Jesus, being Enlil, all of these things. Some things were devastating, and Michael being the same, being all of it. Some of it was devastating. Stuff I felt for it was devastating. But again, I would not trade knowing what I know for the world. I am grateful that I know it. Doesn't mean that I'm not devastated that I didn't know it sooner, didn't catch it sooner, or, that maybe I fell for something for so long, or that something that I believed wasn't real. And people go through belief catharsis. If I did it, other people are really going to do it, especially with the alien thing. But for me, I have a dual side. I'll go, yeah, fucking duh, but at the same time, yeah, I have my own catharsis. So, it is 10:56 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Saturday, February 24th, 2024. Thank you. You see this thing right here? I was going to sell this thing or give this away. And this is a mold that our friend Diana Wolf gave us, but we made this amber and shungite and copper piece. And it's got to be sanded, mind you. But I had it over there, and I was told, keep it there, it was doing a job. And eventually we used this symbol, or a variation of it, for our flags and our shirts, as you know. So it's interesting, it's prophetic that this was doing a job. Now, I don't know whether to keep it in here or bring it in the office, but this, I'm thinking I'll keep it in here for protection. But yeah, that's this thing. I can make these if people want these, out of like amber and shungite and such. So I will put this back where I had it, and I will end this. It is 10:09 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Sunday, February 25th, 2024. Thank you. Okay. You see these flags that are on the outside over here? And this one? The one on the left's Odin's Ravens. That actually brings like a might energy to it. But the Markaba and the other flags that are getting ripped up there, those are the Tibetan ones that are Tartarian origin types, and those are great protection flags, but the other ones are ours. And ours, they hit this side where of the house where I do my sessions, right here. This window, on this side of the house, they're blasting this side of the house on our bedroom. And it's like this, almost like when you look this direction, it's like a blinding light I was blinking a lot looking this way. And we gave one to our massage therapist, energy worker friend, Mary, and she felt the energy when I unwrapped one of these. But these are great to create a temple space. We notice it's like rewriting this property molecule by molecule, and it's interacting with the orgone pieces. Like here, it's blowing all the orgone pieces, and also the crystal grid that we put in place around here, including metal spikes we call crumb nails, that we have a special mixture of amber, frankincense, and myrrh, pine pitch, shungite beeswax, and some powdered silver and stuff like that in there. And you don't know the alchemical basis for it, but with that, we talked about it on GIC as well. We put them on the four corners. We use railroad spikes, and it created protection. But we will be selling those at some point soon. Mixed with all this, but and these flags especially, these things increasing the size of that logo. This turned this Merkaba here, and insignia or signet, whatever you want to call it, sigil, has exponentially brought the energy up, and it's rewriting it molecule by molecule. We have the shirts too, with the symbol on the front, kind of like a superhero, in the same fashion you're seeing the flags. And they have been wonderful protection shirts. We have that and these for sale on galacticinterstellarcouncil.com/merch, or you can contact me directly. So and we can work something out, because you need a login and a password for the site. I can always create a special code for you to get on if you want to buy anything off the merch store. But you need a login and password to get on there. or you can contact me directly, and we can come up with another payment method. But this is these are wonderful protection pieces. So are these, but you can see they're getting rather stringy. We're going to replace the whole fence eventually with those, all along with these, all along here and all along here. And I highly recommend that if you have fences, put those up like this. They might flip over the fence like these did over here at one point, but I'm going to fill in that spot to the right, and may even put a couple of them back here for a good measure, or on this shed here, or on this side of the house here in some form or fashion. So yeah, it has been great. If people want these, let me know. This was recorded on 10:21 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Sunday, February 25th, 2024. Thank you. Oh, a bit of OCD behavior also that's popped up that I've noticed that Isaac said I had to reground from was, see the flags outside? You see that one that's slightly hooked on the fence? It's been bugging the crap out of me for about 5 or 10 minutes now. And that's something that when something like that comes up, you just have to just kind of ignore it and reground from it. Ignoring it is probably the best medicine. Just saying, no, they can't let it bug you. Now, if it goes over the fence, I'll go flip it up over, of course. But if it's something little like that, it's not taking the power away from it. Or if something is nicked, like one of my shirts, protection shirts, got a little nicked, for battle damage. It's not going to, like armor, so it's not going to affect the energies. Maybe an extreme amount of time and extreme age, it might wear it out a little bit. Like those flags out, those ones are shredded, the little ones are shredded, but their power is still there. So it's also the intention put in it, but it's the power of the symbols and the words as well, coupled with intention. So there's triple ones and 1122s. That, and also 2 and 5 is a 7. You see where the AI got involved? It's 11:22 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Sunday, February 25th, 2024. Thank you. Oh, another OCD thing I have is where in my head, if I'm on Facebook or Twitter, I have to read the hashtag out loud, all of them. It's like saying hashtag or underscore. Like if it's the underscore, whatever the hell it is, my brain always has to say underscore for whatever reason. Like, because I've had to spell it out for people, for our sites or our hashtags or our anything posts. And my brain has gotten into that OCD mode. That's part of having to unteach or unlearn that ability and reground in a different mode. That's when I told you, this is the Babbling episode, so here we go. If anybody else has this, feel free to comment below, because this seems to be very pertinent right now, and the amplification of it seems to be very, very prevalent right now. So it is 2:16 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Sunday, February 25th, 2024. Thank you. Oh, another OCD thing. It's a brand new thing that's come up now. One that, since I switched from the other things, came from another one where I have to like kind of pet my arms and do crap like that to wake the nerves up in my arms, or else some of them will twitch and move on their own. That's kind of a targeted dyskinesia sort of thing if I'm stressed, or if there's a bunch of weird energy around or dense energy around, I start going. But the thing is, now because of that, I have to do this weird petting of the arms, and that's another thing that's come up. I'll have to resist doing. There's new stuff that will appear when you get rid of the old stuff. It's really weird. It's like this weird checklist that AI or other forces go through, like with the voice to skull, where it goes through a bunch of presets. This is slightly different. Well, that can do it too, but it's this other force that we were talking about as well that was doing this, and it's weird. It's creepy, and now I got to put a curb on that. If anything else new comes up, I'll let people know. It's 8:04 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Sunday, February 25th, 2024. Thank you. Okay, here's an interesting dream. I was outside the house here. The sun was still relatively up, kind of dusk. And in the under the front porch, I picked up these. There were two box-like metal apparatuses. One was like a size of a brick, regular clay brick, It was very heavy, had a circular slot in the center, and it had a metal sphere in the center that went clink, clink, and you would put it inside. Like the Fisher-Price thing, but with made like metal, where shape tool thing. And the other one was the same. It was a metal cube, and it had a smaller spherical insert in it. Slightly smaller. It was half the size of the other thing. And it was exact cube shape, and the other one was rectangular brick shape. And they were very heavy, and then they fit inside of a larger apparatus that was even heavier. There was a metal apparatus where those things fit in. And they just fit in like a glove. Picked the whole thing up. Very heavy. This thing had, to me, it had to have been close to 100 pounds. And brought it in. It had been under the house, and there were military in the house here. A lot of them crammed in here in different spots. Maybe, if I'd say 30-ish of them. 30, 40-ish of them around, in and around the property. And I went up to a commander. He was tall, black. He kind of reminded me of the guy from Halo, with the cigar. But only without the facial hair, without a hat. It kind of reminded me of that part, unless somebody was using it as a disguise, because I'd been looking into the Halo stuff, or I decoded it like that, because I saw the guy's a commander, and that guy was a commander, so that's a possibility, too. But had lighter skin, kind of like Obama had a lighter tone to him. And I said, well, I found the alien tech. Here it is, and I sat it down. I said something to the effect, just don't put any more interlinked mind control tech in me anymore, stuff like that. And I was actually kinder to them. And he was in the middle of giving a briefing to the men. And I went over to the window. I saw the kitchen window. Saw something was going on across the street. Went over to the side window we have on the side over here. And there was this guy, a lit up house across the street that had this guy in the front yard that looked like he was covered in Christmas lights. But like in a big suit, kind of like that meme I put up that I put the word Isaac on that said, "Hey dipshit, you good?" And I had some guy in a suit and another guy on a bench that was all kind of demoralized for the day, kind of thing. And it was in a suit like that. I could have been decoding it wrong, or Isaac could have made it decoding weird too. I don't doubt that, because it looks similar, just covered in lights. And all of a sudden there was activity in the front yard, something crawling around. I told the commander, I said, hate to interrupt, but look. And saw the guy with the lights in the house across the street messing around. The house was lit up too, like it was covered in Christmas lights, a lot of them. But it was more like, I'm thinking it was more like a spaceship. And what came out of there was a big, angry dog man. But he was not after me, and he was crawling on the ground like in the previous stream. They were crawling around hunting. That's how they've been known to hunt. They get down and they crawl around. And same type as the previous stream. That the one that said, "Not food, go." That one, the same type. Look, lanky. But they could have been stretching and doing stuff to fit into other areas, like little areas like cats do, or mice do, or rodents do. Like they can scrunch down and elongate a little bit. And the one commander looked at me and said, "I'm afraid," or "I'm scared," because they were going after his men. It was going after his men, and there was more than one. Obviously, I just only saw the one in the window. Kind of like if you were playing Resident Evil 2. If anybody was back in that day, played that game where you went past the window and saw something crawl past the window, and it was one of those liquor frog-like things that would lankily crawl past the window. That's kind of how this was, because it was part human, part frog, and they made this like familiar this thing that they could send out into a battlefield. That's what the government was working on, was genetic experiments in that movie series. And the zombie virus a whole bit, but this thing was like that, where it crawled under the window, not on it like the liquor did. And that it's in the beginning of the game if people want to go look. get past the graphics, the pixelation, and all that stuff. It can be annoying if you've seen the new stuff, but whatever, it's classic. And then they were afraid, and then that I found it I've kind of smirked, went, and then woke up. I woke up kind of smirking a little bit. I was in a lot of pain when I woke up, though. And this person, these people were terrified of confronting a dogman. It was like the people across the street were a different military unit, like Isaac's people, like they had the more advanced technology to make themselves look like aliens. And they unleashed it on regular military that weren't quite as advanced, another sect. And that happens. Like this, it's like an SSP. Like it would be like an SSP soldier, like a Spartan-esque type of person, confronting a regular soldier. They not only would be bigger, like the ones Joanna saw in the dream sequence, where I was up to their nipples. That was from the Bahama cruise one where we were abducted. I was put full of nanites. I went on a mission with some people. She was drugged. I came back, and there was a photograph that was an animated photograph of me next to 4 others, and I was only up to their nipples, and they were bigger. They had more enhancements. They could only do so much to me in that abduction scenario. But in this, it was like that other unit was unleashing this dogman on this other one that was this other unit that was a pain in the ass that was actually looking for alien tech. And see, some of the other ones that thought they were the tip of the spear are out there looking for things that belong to these other units that are far more advanced. They found a piece of alien tech, or I was being made to look for it for them. And this other unit, more likely Isaac's, came by and told them what's what. And scared them, just like in oh God, what was it? That show with the Tim Allen, Home Improvement, years ago. One of the funniest episodes was when the 2 brothers convinced their younger brother he was going to be abducted by aliens and all this other stuff, and he found it was a practical joke. And the mother goes, "Oh, just let it go," and blah blah blah. And then Tim Allen's character goes, "Or we can get revenge or get even." That night, the 2 kids were out in the yard. He shines a spotlight down on him. He comes out covered in Christmas lights. Isaac would know I'd remember that reference as a kid. So obviously he played theatrics on this other group and scared the ever-living bejeebus out of him. So I commend him if that was him. Oh, I'm getting a nod. Okay. Yeah. I commend him completely if that was him. So that's hilarious. I just knew that this was another group that was just kind of data mining. And I like the one that was in North Carolina the first time when we were out in Knightdale, North Carolina, where I went into the bathroom where Joanna's toilet was at the time, saw a window, and there was a street light, saw soldiers running. And part of me was like, meh, didn't think anything of it. Went out into the kitchen, there were like 8 of them out there. They were had materialized, and they separated me and Joanna, questioned us as to what we knew about certain alien contacts and certain military units and certain beings that we had been talking to, and found out some of the beings we had been talking with had been their military at the time. But you're going to find some channelings or that, voice of skull, that whole bit, the rest. But we saw evidence in the front yard where we saw something had been scraped along the ground. It was a tripod that held big binoculars they could see through walls with, like in Eraser with Arnold Schwarzenegger with that gun that he could see through the walls, because it was it was those rods that shot out at the speed of sound and could go through walls. And it was basically like a miniature Thor's hammer kind of thing, or the hammer of God technology, where they just drop a rod down on a landmass at the speed of sound, and it devastates like a meteorite would. That's a weapon the SSP has, and that's a well-known one in some circles. That's the hammer of God, Thor's hammer. They name things after Scandinavian and Greek and Egyptian gods, like you saw in Halo. So that's accurate, naming the programs. But with that gun in Arnold Schwarzenegger's guns in Eraser were a miniature version of that, and higher form of technology versus regular tech, and that's kind of the comparison here. So I'll end this here, but just know that that's what that was. At least that's what I believe that was. So, also when we were in Knightdale, Also saw the footprint of military under that window. Gathered all the evidence. I still have the pictures and everything from that night. And there had been a craft that had hovered in the neighboring field. It was a silent plane that they came out of, and also a black van at the front of the property. And those were, you could tell there had been evidence there. Usually when there's a gang stalker, they leave crap behind, or they're careless in some fashion. They think they're God's gift, and they leave crap behind. And you see it, even if it's tire marks, you see it. So, yeah, even when the military posed as a dog man in Arizona, I went out. I even heard them grumbling outside, banged on the wall. He banged on the wall. Went outside the next day and just saw a boot print. There were no big dog prints like you'd expect. Unless he was wearing shoes, I doubt whether that was anything but a military stagecraft. So in this case, this was a military stagecraft, but Isaac was at the helm, which, ta-da. Also, one thing he did to a demon that was in the TV there, we called them TV demons at the time. They were something that a creature was banished to the crystal grid. The humans started mining crystals, using it for televisions, and they stayed there and looshed, while the Draco also looshed from the crystals in the television. They get them from wrestling events and everything. They gather them, and they gather the loosh out of the crystals. Or the adrenaline from people at home. When people recycle the TVs. This being was non-gender descript. It was both. It was creepy little 2-foot tall, like succubus, like on Ancient Aliens, the one sitting on the person's shoulder, or incubus, whatever the hell you want to call it. And it was creepy. It was very creepy. It would steal sexual energy, and make you weak. All this other stuff, erectile dysfunction, or the female version of that. It would cause all sorts of stuff. Just take the orgasm from you, basically. And what happened was, I asked for Isaac's help, and he showed up as like this flaming skull behind this thing and went like a organ cacophony, and grabbed it and just shredded the crap out of it and trapped it. But yeah, he's the one that showed me the bottle jar technique to throw demons and stuff in. My mother did too, but for ghosts. And with that, you put holes in the top of the jar, put them on a shelf, and say when you mantle with your oversoul, that's when you can leave on your own. And that's what happens to anybody that I've done that with. But with him, he showed me the bottle jar technique, where I just throw the jar in a cabinet and lock it with the Merkaba symbol on it. Throw that cabinet into somebody else's portal if they're being a pain in the ass, and they have to clean up the mess from a multitude of different attachments that flew at me from different sessions and different attacks and different things. So I've done that technique before. That's defense, but also offense at the same time. So I'll leave that here. It is 7:58 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday, February 26, 2024. Thank you. Okay, it's been confirmed. It actually was him doing advanced stage crafting. Like Stephen Greer said, Dr. Stephen Greer says about stage crafting, they pose as aliens. And the alien tech I found was more than likely a higher grade military. And they were wanting to dig up something that another program owned. And so therefore Isaac pulled the Christmas light stage crafting. That Home Improvement episode would be like a comedic version of a stagecraft. So there is a bit of disclosure in that, even though it may not have been intentional on Tim Allen's part. But he's Hollywood, you never know. I'm throwing that up in the air, but I think yes, there is, like on a subconscious level, somebody was creative and brought that out, but then some writer brought that in at the same time. That could have been in a program, you never know. I feel yes, or through like ideas channeling. But it was too direct of a thing, so obviously it was somebody on the writing team. But yeah, could have been somebody like Isaac saying, hey, let's do this. And that happens all the time. Happens in a lot of cases with disclosure in the media. Video games, all of it, movies, books, all of it. So channeling too. So, but that was definitely him pulling the stage trap. He knew I would know the reference from early preteen years is when that was on for me. So about died laughing when I figured that out. They think they're the tip of the spear, and then it's more advanced unit versus regular unit. That's data mining. So, but trying to get information out of people, that's a form of data mining interrogation. And they were just being dickheads, and he showed them what was what. So obviously I knew, that's why I was being so passive. I was like, yeah, I hate to interrupt, but apparently there was a version of me involved in the stage crafting. We're thinking it's an echo of a memory. It may have happened a couple months ago, and I'm just remembering it. And I've been remembering bits and pieces of other things along the way. We're thinking it happened a while ago. It couldn't have happened last night because it was set at dusk here at this house, and then it went to night. We were all awake at the time. So it had to have happened at some point, probably around the time we first got here, probably at the beginning of last year. So about the beginning of 2023, more than likely when Joanna and me were just here. That feels right to me. That was about March-ish, about this time, a little bit later, about this time last year. So about a year later, where that memory wheel cycles around, sounds about right to me. I'm getting validation to that. So it is. The memories can delay like that if they've been wiped. So I blame Isaac for the memory wipe. Hey, shit happens. That's all I heard. You're welcome. So that's where I'm leaving it. They were retarded. Yeah, I know they're retarded. So it is 8:09 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday, February 26th, 2024. Thank you. Frequency value-wise, times can line up. Like certain times of year, equinoxes, cross quarters, solstices, can also align with certain memories that may have been taken. Isaac and Thorsden more than likely knew that I remember this. It makes more sense to me. It makes more sense to me that I had just come fresh out of Arizona, and there's Thorsden and Isaac doing the thing. Because my parents, my stepfather and my mother had not arrived yet. They wouldn't have arrived till June. So it was just as I was getting here, roughly, give or take, this time of year right now, maybe a little bit into March. I think it was a little more, a little bit into March. But it makes sense that now this time of year is coming around, and that realigns to an event that took place roughly the same time last year. And you'll find that a lot of these memories are delayed. Some people think certain things just happen, or they happened a lot, and they're just remembering a bunch of them. The brain's just kind of cramming them all together. When you have your memory wipe, the brain tries to fill it in and amalgamates a bunch of shit all together. This was a specific thing, though. I'm getting the extreme validation to this. I do have to cut it out because there's a session this morning, but you know what I'm saying. I do agree with his actions. He obviously let out the other me that had more memory for a brief time so that I could help in the stagecraft. Some people say the life we're living now is the stagecraft. I disagree. Some people brought that up to me. How do you know you're not living a stagecraft? Joanna did too, and I was like, no. I think others are trying to convince us that's what we're doing. I think it's a lot less designed than that. I think a lot of the stuff I'm getting, memory-wise, is from the past. It's from SSP time. From the Vladimir Putin memories to the Russian military memories to all of these things. I think it's more past. Except in instances where they abducted, like with the Vladimir Putin thing, it aligned to when he overthrew a rebellion in his country. So, apparently the other me is slightly more ambitious. Like the whole Rutherford thing with the two hymns. Yeah. So sometimes sleeper personalities come in handy, but sometimes they're a bitch, or echoes from the SSP are a major bitch. So, anyway, this would preclude the fact that Isaac wiped the memory, but, like he said, shit happens. I forgive him because it's him. I found Elena Vesta did the same at one point, but I don't approve of memory wipe because it can cause psychoses, Alzheimer's, dementia, things of that nature if you do it too much. Depends on who. Yeah, I know. Depends on who did it. Some inject in and wipe the memory, like in Incredibles. You see the boy that gets wiped, and the guy tells Craig D. Nelson's character, "Hey, it's not an exact science." It took all of his memories of his daughter, or the boy took all the boy's memories were taken of Craig T. Nelson's daughter in it. So, yeah. So it's not exact science, but the more alien variety, there's more advanced varieties that will not cause psychosis. Like in Star Trek, where Data sees a little girl, or talks to a little girl on a planet that's less advanced. She cries out for help. The Picard was going to make them not help out, saying, oh, we have to ignore this. This is nature taking this species out. And she cries out for help. Troy argues they were there for a reason. Picard said, it's my decision. They hear the cry for help. They help that girl's planet, but then they wipe her memory in the end. And Dr. Pulaski goes, "This is so she evolves the way she was meant to." I can see the logic in it, just like the species in another episode where Worf's brother abducts this species, puts them onto a holodeck. You find out he was supposed to be watching them. Their planetary atmosphere was dying. They were supposed to let him die, and he didn't. So they have to find another planet for him by manipulating the holodeck as they go along to change the topography of the new planet. Just like my past life memory, where I was a pirate against the Galactic Federation, moved a planet. And they tried to arrest me for it. I used like a TARDIS-like apparatus to move a planet near another star. It's like, you didn't need to let this species die from a nova. It could be saved. They don't need to know we're there. But the gravity was different, the light was different, and the species became slightly more aggressive, and they were not in their natural evolutionary state that they started in. That sun changed their evolution, just like in Valhalla, in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. You hear on the radio that the sun could change the solar flash that was there, which they're promoting solar flash propaganda in that. Aside from coronal ejections for 2012, they were promoting solar flash evolutionary changes and things of that nature. I don't agree completely, and central sun, stuff like that. But before I go on and on, you know what I'm talking about. You know about the stage crafting. You know about the propaganda that's out there. Sentient narrative, all these narratives, that are out there, from political theater puppets to the theater of champions. You know about all this. You know the levels of stage crafting and how it's much more simple than they're making it, including some of Valiant Thors, I might add. It is 8:17. It's 8:17 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday, February 26th, 2024. Thank you.
Remember what I've said about fixating on a singular event or thing if you're being abducted? Obviously, Isaac knew this, and that's why he did the thing with the lights. He made it so outlandish, knowing what was going to happen, knowing I would be pissed, but knowing that I knew that secret. So that's why that was so just off the fucking wall with him, knowing that I not only would know the reference, but the show reference, but I would fixate on that one thing because it stood out amongst everything else. Dogman thing, yes, going over the top, like circus tent, like bright lights and everything, the clown thing. So yeah, that's kind of like the whole, like, his vibe. So yeah, that mixed with Drop Dead Fred, so he knew I would know the reference. I'm surprised he hasn't used that yet. Probably he will now that I've said it. But okay, I will leave that here. It is 6:32 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday, February 26th, 2024. Thank you. Remember in the Babbling material when I told you about the carousel, the that Isaac would do? Well, he was, like I said, he was making reference to that dream/memory, where a fixated point would be the circus-like lights, circus tent-like lights. Another thing was, he would do it at times where there were these other downloads trying to come through. And I wanted help with kind of shutting all that down at times. And he would do the do. Those are alignment gears that realign you if you're drifting or if something's coming in and then somebody's trying to block something. It's a piece of technology, these advanced gears that can realign a body and realign cells and realign even molecular cellular solid ability, or realign energies and frequencies. So the message was obviously in that Simpsons episode that he was referring to, the one where Homer went to clown college. So basically calling school clown college, maybe even the Earth School being a clown college, being here, doing our thing as a clown college. At least I'm thinking that's it. Message received, but it was also like a bolt tightening, like tightening Frankenstein's bolts. I always say this body's like Frankenbody because of the head we put back together again, or Humpty Dumpty. So tightening the bolts. And what's really strange is always like in some of these babbling scenarios, this is another one that I missed that's actually more crucial than some of the others, where
I'm tightening like something, like I'm picking up something and going tightening something. I'm thinking these are energies I'm working with somewhere, but my mind babbles even if I'm having a conversation. Somebody's coming to talk to me, or some other one of those other scenarios are coming up, and I'm seeing myself going like I'm realigning myself because I'm realizing there's a babbling going on. That's it. Okay, I got it. Nailed it. Okay. Like I'm even hearing that click, 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 click. And so that was an unusual babbling, but obviously it had to do with realignment. So, and the it had to do with realignment. I'm thinking Clown College reference was like lessons learned here. That the whole lesson thing was either a clown college and fake, or yeah, it's a clusterfuck. It's a clown college and we get through it. Either one of those explanations is plausible, and I choose which one. Yes, I know. All right. Got the entirety of the message now. Okay. Well, not entirety, but close. Okay, it's 7:33 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Tuesday, February 27th, 2024. Thank you. Also, the choice of songs was the Simpsons one, like I said before, a Clown College one, and or that of Entry of the Gladiators. I first thought it was March of the Gladiators, but it's not like do 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 do. And I used that one during that whole Biden meme I put up with a Valentine's Day thing on my Facebook. You know, about are you a set of stairs because I love you kind of thing, and you see him falling. But that'd be kind of gag Isaac would pull too, just to get somebody's attention. And I have, yes, I know. So that looks like a Biden gag somebody would, or Isaac gag somebody would pull, like him falling up the stairs. Only he would fall up the stairs. So Biden, not Isaac. At least not yet. But anyway, it sounds like a practical joke he would do. Or if you were in the background and wanted to cause a distraction, you'd do that. So, that's again, a political circus. Theater of Puppets, Hall of Champions, Theater of Heroes, Theater of Champions. Circus. That's the rest of the message. So, I believe, anyway, if I come up with any more decipherings, I'll let you know. But I end up intuitively playing Entry of the Gladiators there. That's the other circus song. That's the one that John Philip Sousa, I believe, wrote. But it was also was based on the gladiatorial arena. I believe there was a variation of that created back then, and he Sousa expanded on it. So it is 7:36 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Tuesday, February 27th, 2024. Thank you. Okay, it just dawned on me that Isaac was calling those specific soldiers clowns. They're clowns. So just like he did for those aliens that were in the factory, I told you, those reptilians. That I saw them come in as circus clowns. I said, "Why are you dressed like that? You even have dingle balls, all that other stuff." And they're like, and I said, "You even have a balloon." Like, "Oh, no, you're not decoding us correctly. You're not seeing it correctly." And I blinked and saw they were reptilians in a instead of mime painted clowns. But the dingle balls and everything, they were just in a jumpsuit and holding a pad that looked like the shape of an egg or a balloon because their hands were round. And they so they couldn't grip a square or a rectangular one like ours. So they're not like our hands. Not like apish hands. Theirs were like round reptile type, like a Komodo dragon or something like that. So he was calling them clowns. This he was also calling these military clowns. Also, I'm thinking there's a reptilian reference because of some of the stuff that's been happening around here with the Draco. So that's the rest of the message, I believe. That's a simpler one where he's calling them specifically clowns. So I commend him on that one. I thought that was brilliant. And I see him bowing, yes. Not only that, he was accusing them of the stagecrafting. He wasn't always calling them clowns. He was accusing them directly of the stagecrafting or the abduction. So basically, military stagecrafting, like what Ryan and I saw when we asked him to mess with mods for Fallout New Vegas, and he showed aliens and he showed military. So that was also part of the message. Well, this also ties back to what he said we thought memory was as well. Just like referring to the military as clowns. And clown college, meaning the SSP. It was a clown college. Maybe things you don't want to learn from, you know? Or that you have learned from, but like my grandfather always said, it was Mickey Mouse bullshit. So, yeah. So I find that find that interesting. Also, the fact the political theater, political circus, it's involved in the political circus. What I was seeing was like with all the memories I was getting back, like from being around from Vladimir Putin to other politicians to Trump to any of them. And that other me that was back there, the clown college, essentially is what he was trying to say. Okay, yeah, I'm going to leave it there, and it ended on 101. I thought that was interesting. Schooling, college, education, yeah. So, academia. So, yeah. Also learning the psychic skills, or learning the psychic assassinations, all the other stuff I did in SSP. On the psychic soldier. He was calling that clown college. So, in a 1 and a 22. Okay, it's time to stop. So, it is 8:02 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Tuesday, February 27th, 2024. Thank you. Another one of the clown references with Isaac was when I was working around two people we trusted at the time. And so somebody that I would go, two people I would go on different missions with. And both of them were there. And we'll call the other guy Nutfucker because that's what Richie and I nicknamed him. The other one was, say, Liar. Nutfucker and Liar. I really can't think of another nickname for that one. The person who comes up with the creative nicknames is not in today. So, when I come up with another one, I'll just hashtag it or something. But, or Nutterfucker was also what Isaac called the other person. So, not very creative, but it's descriptive. Liar is also descriptive, so, on both of them. So, the one would have me looking in the military bases all the time, and I didn't realize this person was putting me into mortal danger. And Isaac has informed me that the reasons for not healing us completely, there's been a series of health conditions that have popped up on 3 different sides now. And I realize it's like ghost activity because we had an old lady ghost yesterday that was in here praying as my mother had to go to the hospital with a herniated disc after her heart valve replacement surgery. Joanna thought it was the other. She was pinged by soul family somewhere. Winston being one of them, the dog, and a couple of others that pointed out these conditions that she had to go get this looked at. But I was wondering why nobody could just get put into these healing chambers. Isaac made it quite clear that the dangers would outweigh the benefits, and that these people are more powerful than they ever have been. They're just being more deceptive, or they're more out in the open, but they're also more deceptive in their narratives. I told you, there could be 100 layers for all you know, or a couple hundred layers, because this is planned out over a series of years. Anyway, looking into this one base while we were bilocating in the elevator going into this base, this guy goes, Nutterfucker says, get into costume, and so that we looked the part. And then these people with V2K made it quite clear they weren't falling for this. Isaac was actually helping me away from, Buffer, Liar, and Nutterfucker. And he was protecting me from the other portions because they were deceiving me as well. And I told one of them, I said, look at Isaac. And this person at the time was laughing because he looked like a clown. Was dressed like a clown. Basically saying circus, clowns, these people were clowns. He was making fun of them. And also the clown college reference from before. So that's essentially what he was doing. So yeah, I'm going to add this in there. It is relevant. I know these videos turn out very, very long when I put all these in there. But each one, I'm remembering each layer as they come up. And this was one of them from around, I would have to say, in 2020, I think, yeah, either 2019 or 2020, this popped up. So these are people we don't converse with anymore. So I'm going to leave that here. It was a splitting of the densities and also the fact these people are agents. So running into them, folks, gang stalkers, agents, anti-changers. We've run into them distracting the whole time, and it was distracting away from me. And Joanna's purpose was just putting the information out there. And of course, making helpful tools and merch. The brands that are left at this point are The Lifting, GIC, Conspiracy Sector, The World of Sasquatch. We're also making The World of Dogmen, and a video game Disclosure in the Media Rumble channel as well. So that's an official announcement of that one too. Haven't done it at the time of this recording, but we're getting to that. So you'll look for it. I'll make a link. And the link will be under all the videos as well. So it is 11:29 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Tuesday, February 27th, 2024. Thank you. Another clown reference is when I was in one of Bjorn's sessions when they were trying to Isaac and Elena Vessa were joking around, and they have this technology where you can kind of super grow hair, and you can also tell where hair not to grow too. You like a woman never need to shave their legs again. Convenient. Or armpits or something like that. You could basically tell follicles with this technology, with the molecular cellular solid ability, of course, telling the cells not to grow hair in a particular spot or grow a beard in a particular pattern and to a particular length. Where you wouldn't have to shave again, where you could just have a particular style and leave it that way. And, of course it would continue to grow. I suppose it wouldn't stunt the length. But it would. Okay. Or you can force grow and play a practical joke on somebody and have immensely large armpit hair. Or pubic hair or some crap like that. Like an afro, down below afro or something like that. That would piss someone off. Like if you just did it randomly without them knowing. The Harry Potter spell type of cursing could do the same kind of thing. The Tartarian World Unity is quite capable of this. But, where I was in the middle of a session, Vessa was watching me. I could see her holding a cup of coffee, and in her pajamas because they just woke up kind of thing. And all of a sudden, there was like this beard that grew on her. And it was Isaac that did that. You can do it to either gender. So, just like you heard the holographic doctor in Voyager when they rescued 7 of 9 originally. And they said, we've stimulated your hair follicles, your hair is back, kind of thing. And because she was bald when she had been assimilated as the Borg, when she had the Borg implant. So, I do believe the actress, when they filmed certain scenes, had no hair. It's kind of like Karen Gillian as Nebula in the Marvel Cinematic Universe versus Doctor Who. Last time she was in Doctor Who, she was just wearing a wig of her own hair. She did this at a press conference showing it as well. But with this, nobody would ever have to wear a wig again. Like cancer patients, leukemia, all of those, they just cured the diseases. They have those in stock, believe it or not. But any disease you can think of, they have a cure for. Or they made the cure and they made the disease so they could cure it if they needed to, kind of thing. Anyway, like the COVID-19 thing with the vaccine, the Orions did it on multiple worlds where they were the firemen and the arsonists put together, pretty much. The plague and the cure, and that's how they got control. But with this, she got back at him by using the device to make his face white, like the aristocratic with the arsenic faces, and did a mime like Harlequin thing all over. That was another clown reference. They were doing that as also a clue. Clown and circus seems to be this running theme that I've missed. Because I can't stand clowns, puppets, mimes, crap like that. It's like that character in Skyrim in the Dark Brotherhood. He goes, I can't stand puppets, mimes, tumblers, and bards, all this other stuff. One of the famous speeches by that character. If people want to go look at that, he's the Red Guard that you meet in the Dark Brotherhood. But I found that hilarious. And at first I thought it was just to creep me out, but it was basically being displayed as a message. The clown show. This is a clown show, or this is a clown college. Meaning there's something fake about this. It's an act. There's an act going on. So I found that fascinating. Like there was an act that they were having to pull, or they were basically in a stage play in the background that certain rules and treaties had to be obeyed. Just like Isaac made it clear to me this morning they couldn't heal us of their certain calamities because and medical conditions because regardless if an outside source did it, they could balance it out. But we'd be in more danger if they fixed us 100% than being fixed. Than being broken up. Just like I had this vision of this Eben hybrid lady that wanted to fix my leg completely, because even with the rod in it had been broken and I've forgotten erased time when we were in Illinois. And the military, this commander that was there made it quite clear they were not to do that. No, you have to keep up appearances with this one. Meaning that there was that some treaty was going to be violated or something. Like they knew something about myself, and also with the treaties that they had to put it back the way that it actually was, even though they caused the accident to begin with too. Those clowns did. I even saw somebody on the internet one time where I was correcting them on something. This is how to give an argument online, just to piss them off, and they called me a clown. So the clown references popped up online, offline, vision sequences, all of it. So I don't approve of the keeping up appearances. I even had this talk about the babbling. Again, scenario was in the head. Saw myself as, again, it was like a Star Trek-y-esque, I want to say esque type thing, like Voyager, like I was on a ship that was laid out like Voyager, but more like a submarine. I got aboard it and was trying to cure myself of whatever I had and trying to fix my own legs, knee, get the rod out of my leg. Wasn't quite successful, and they put everything back the way it was before I ever tampered, even though I'd managed to heal myself with stuff. That's how freaking strict they are in some of these things. It's like, what are you doing? This is the mystery. Just heal it. In fact, I would be singing their praises if they'd fix it. Not sure what the hell's going on with that. I wouldn't give it a second thought. I wouldn't even talk about it. I would just live my life and then talk about the stuff we talk about. But now I get it fixed. I'm going to talk about it. So, unless that's somebody's plan all along, but still, it's frustrating as all freaking get out. So this is more of a rant. This appeared to be, but this is during one of Bjorn's sessions, and I thought that was quite funny. What happened, but with their messages, it's double and triple and quadruple, quintuple layered, and you have to decipher all this. It's like I said, dealing with Groot. Isaac's not the only one that can pull the Groot routine. I am Groot. Yes, that's cool. I know. I understand. That kind of thing. Or I am Groot. Yeah. I hate that too. That kind of thing. That's kind of how you have to deal with reading between the lines. That's how I say reading between the lines is the I am Groot routine or Groot routine. And that's why you heard Isaac in a Vegas recording basically say, I am Groot. He was basically confirming some other things that were being said and being shown in the Vegas area, confirming some of the things we were seeing and feeling there with the alien presence and the military presence. So you have to just kind of look past all that. I saw a meme one time or a comic with Groot and Jean Grey from the X-Men, and she was hearing him, what he was actually saying, I cherish you greatly, my people love you, all this other stuff. And then on the surface he was saying, I am Groot. So, yeah, in telepathy it's both ways too. They could be, some species could be saying one thing and they're actually transmitting the rest. Just like there was this episode of Next Generation, a sad one, where Loxana Troy comes aboard the ship that's Counselor Troy's mother, and she was having some trauma of a other daughter that passed away, and this other and Troy didn't know she had a sister, half sister, or sister. She never knew. And this one alien race, I can't remember the alien race, but this alien was named Maycrease, and his daughter looked like Hedril, the other woman, the other girl that died, and that's what sparked this trauma in the Loxana. But Maycrease's people spoke through imagery and telepathy, but they were being made to do things verbally, teach things verbally, because they wanted to be in the Federation, so they had to learn other ways of communicating, because they had to deal with a multitude of other races that spoke verbally and not just telepathically. So, yeah, they were trying to, they're like, I can't find the words, and their type of telepathy wore Loxana out, more so because of the trauma, but it made the trauma surface. She tried to say it was privacy, that's private information. They didn't understand this because telepathy opens everything up, all secrets. That's how telepathy is out there in the galaxy too. So that's an accurate thing. They spoke in images. They couldn't deal with words and language. They had to learn it, and the girl learned it faster. And they didn't use their vocal cords much. They had to have some kind of regenerator on their vocal cords. They had them, but they had to have since they never used them, they kind of atrophied. They had to fix them. Famous Next Generation episode where her mother, where Troy goes to Macrice connects them. She goes telepathically into where Loxana has to do the shadow work. Encounters all these barriers in the way because it was the mind protecting itself. And like a joint surrounding itself with water to try to heal it, and it really is doing more damage from the suppression of the trauma. Epitome of shadow work, just like with my knee when I first hurt that, or had it hurt. Even though that guy was controlled again, this was military stuff, I feel resetting it back would be pre-accident. That's my opinion, that's my view, they don't see it that way. But it swelled up to the point where intuitively I knew I had to do something. I shoved an ice pick in it to drain the water, and I cauterized it and then put a Band-Aid over. It ended up saving my knee. You gotta go with the intuition. My father said that's one of the stupidest things I've ever seen, or one of the bravest things I've ever seen. I filled up a Solo cup, water, put it down the drain in the shower, and down the toilet. What was left, there was all this crud and scar tissue that came out, put it down the toilet, and it saved my knee. Point is, that's what also trauma does. It's that damn fluid. It's like a fluid that surrounds a joint and it's ripping it apart. Doing the shadow work is the ice pick that lets the fluid out. And they couldn't even put cortisone in the joint. There was so much water. And they're like, we don't know what to do. I knew. They wouldn't do anything because I wasn't giving them any money, so they weren't offering any. There wasn't any incentive there to get them to budge. And my leg would have fallen apart if I depended on them. That's why I don't depend on them. Because they're obsessed with money. There's a difference between being a business person and having that completely rule your mentality. Two different animals. Merging the two like we do, like with the sessions and with the merch, and doing what they do, which their services should be free to people, but there's a way they can earn money like what the tech oligarchs do, the social media oligarchs do with ads and stuff like that. They could balance it to where it's still capitalism. They just wouldn't have to hover over the patient to get the money. They could take it from the person that caused an accident, whoever it was ruled against in court. They could get it that way. You know, there's a multitude of other methods other than what they're using now. And for Joanna's job, they're on some kind of stupid quota system that they have to bounce from patient to patient to patient, and they can't adequately care for the people. And people are quitting left and right, and it makes it worse on the people that are there. System needs an overhaul. This is an in-between. If they just would implement some of these things, it would ease up. But it's going to take an active benevolent source creator or co-creative effort on humanity's part to get that changed over. Then it should be one thing, like Starfleet Medical, and not all these different franchises and different chapters and different businesses that some of these individuals open practices. So that's where I'm at. I'm done ranting. This is what this applies to this show. I know it's going to be super long. I do apologize for that. But it is, in all fairness, called the Babbling, or the Echo. So it applies. Echo of the past, now babbling about it. You get the reference. This is the only show I can actually get away with that on. So, humor me. It is 12:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Tuesday, February 27th, 2024. Thank you. Okay, here's the last of the OCD behaviors. It's very windy out here at the moment, and I have those flags that I talked about on Facebook out, and they flip over the fence every now and again. If you were to taut that, it would act like a sail and tear the crap out of it. It's better that it's a flag, or a banner flag banner type of scenario. It's right downward, like I have this. Even though I would have this hanging up normal, and we have flags I'd have hanging normal. But at any rate, I always have to go out and straighten them when I see them, and they're just protecting as equally as doing that, you know, waving around like that as they would just hanging. So it's like, okay, you know, I have to go out and straighten them. Just like my massage therapist in Prescott had to straighten my socks and the labels had to be out, that kind of thing. For energetically sensitive people, that's just how we do things. So I have to reground and reassess and wait until the wind's over. I'll be out there every 10 seconds switching them. You don't want to do that. You have to just kind of just let it be and be done with it. So, and wait till it's done. Wait till the windstorm's done. So I'll go out there like like tomorrow if it's still. So it's 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's 3:01 p.m. And yes, I do have to do that. That's not an OCD thing. It closes the circle. So it is 3 p.m. or it's 3:01 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Tuesday, February 27th, 2024. Oh, and also if I screw up in there, that's a OCD thing, but it's also a closing of the circle. So it's 3:01 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Tuesday, February 27th, 2024. Thank you. Okay, one more thing that during me and Bjorn's session that came up, I was telling him about the babbling concept and stuff like that a little bit, and also the fact what Isaac did during that when he scared the crap out of those soldiers that were here, the army guys that were here. When he did that, because they weren't supposed to be here, and they were doing basically data mining to see why they weren't the tip of the spear, that whole bit. It reminded me, and I told Bjorn this reminded me of Monsters University, where at the end, you know how the Monsters Inc. movies and stuff were more about looshing, they'd loosh fear out of people, but laughter was stronger. They were trying to say laughter was stronger. But in Monsters University, Sully and Mike were trying to prove themselves. And what they ended up doing was Sully was in a campground and there were a bunch of adults around, and the one Dean was like, no, we've never scared adults. They become more conscious after a while, and they're not childlike, so they don't scare. And also it's about scaring children and getting the fear out of children. That's more of like an adrenochroming, looshing type of thing in that. But what I'm getting at is Sully went in there and he managed to scare the shit out of park rangers, cops, and I think there were soldiers and stuff like that in there. Just other adults, people, campers looking for what was going on. And the monsters were afraid they were going to get caught because of the adults. But Sully managed to scare the ever shit out of them and completely fill all the loosh canisters. And they're like, no shit. That's kind of like what that was reminded of. He said basically Monsters University or Monsters Inc. without the looshing, and that's essentially what he did to those soldiers. I told Bjorn about that, and we were laughing. So, yeah, I thought this was absolutely hilarious. So, this will get added to that pile of videos. But we were talking today, and I thought that was just funnier than hell. So, I was struggling to remember that for a minute, and Isaac put it in my head and reminded me. But yeah, you did, or I wouldn't have remembered it. In fact, no. It was the fact that I remembered it and was going to do this recording. I got my ear ringing, as you were more likely yelling at my ear to not do it after such a long session today. But I did anyway because it was part of this, and that's what I do. So, also my brain, being OCD and babbling, would not have let this go. And he knows this, and it's a futile effort to get me to not do it. Therefore, I do it, and sometimes that's useful when they do an opposite, because then you do the opposite thing and run into the actual thing you got to do. And sometimes it's exactly what they're saying. Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. So, it is 3:02 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Wednesday, February 28th, 2024. Thank you. Oh, remember months ago we reported on GIC about that Taigetan group that was in this area that was mimicking religious figures, even for people that we knew? This is exactly what's going on again with a local church. I'm not going to say the name, but that's what's going on. Also, they're in this area. Also, that dream I said with Isaac with the lights and those metal boxes were because of that's the Taigetan technology. And if you remember all the way back to the talk with the Galactics that me and Joanna did on them, and also the true Taigetan agenda, where they had that monolithic structure where they were working out of, and I heard them calculating where people's belief systems were and all this other stuff. I didn't see the beings. I just heard them. They were in a different frequency, but I heard them enough. They were looking over a neighborhood, but nobody could see the structure. It was like a flying monolith. Or it's very similar to those little boxes. Like it was like that little sphere in the box, in the square, and then in the bigger rectangle, and those two went in the even larger piece. And that's what the military was looking for. When I was reading Bjorn yesterday, those guys decided to try to attack at one point, and I saw this sharp, like, door, kind of like Al in Quantum Leap when he had that door, or in Loki where they have the other door. They were like the portals they had there. Those are like the dimensional portals the programs use, where it's like they have these plexiglass doors that move side to side, and they have a square door they use for dimensional travel, and they have these thick doors in between. Very similar in all accounts. Any of these geometric stuff, it's these Pleiadian Taygetan type groups, negatively based on them. I'm not saying positively based ones. And they're related to Land and Vestas people as well. So, and some Lyran background too. And they're related to the Princes of the Universe too. So they're all kind of cousins of each other. So this, I saw this square, excuse me. Sorry, hair in the mouth. I saw this square portal open up the size of a man, but out popped this little sylph gnome. And what a sylph gnome is basically a gnomish person covered in hair, like a tiny Sasquatch. And sometimes they're used as familiars. They had a hard time pushing that portal in, so it was by this tree that was by the window there. This came in. The Taygetan forces by themselves couldn't get in. Apparently, the Tibetan flags that I have back there are not strong enough. I have to put all of our stuff like this out there. So some of the traditional stuff apparently is not strong enough. It's this. So I have to up the game by having more of them out there and cover the whole yard in them. Also, the orgone pieces, they had a hard time getting near the orgone pieces and near the where Land and Vesa, Forest people, and Isaac and them come through. So, they had a difficult time. But the black portal that I saw the doorway is exactly that. Joanna spotted that before her brother passed. Before her brother passed away. The night right before it, when she got up out of bed, saw this black wall. The black wood, it scared the crap out of her. And that was actually him as he was passing, but it had a similar transitional feel, like it was a geometric shape. Now sometimes these things can happen. Sometimes these textural things can pop up like that, as somebody's passing. But in this instance, this was an actual piece of technology like you see in Loki, or you see Al using in Quantum Leap. Same thing. It's like the or the like you see in Loki. So, great example. But they like to use this stuff. They like the geometric shape stuff. It's just their thing, their style. So, this Taygetan group specifically was doing it. So, I think at some point you're going to find out that they're not exactly alien either. They're more dimensional. Like what was said, 99.99% of who people are in contact with are from here. In the introverse and dimensional states in Garthen, you're going to find this out at some point. But Princes of the Universe, I know, no, are from out there. So a lot of Pleiadian groups are, of course, of the other races, but that's still only like 2 to 5%. That's still a lot of people out there, aliens-wise, not just the bad guys. So that's still a lot of people, a lot of races. People say, they can't almost all be from here. Yeah, they can. Earth is a dimensional nexus along the Bifrost, so yeah, yes it can. And introverse, multiverse, yes it can. Even the Orions fall into the multiverse category. It also just dawned on me today is a leap year. I'm thinking when I said the date, it's February 29th. So, yeah, leap year, February 29th, yeah. So it is 8:11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Thursday, February 29th, 2024. Thank you.
Okay, here's a synchronicity. I've been cleaning out and archiving some old shows and files, Talk with the Galactics, and that show I mentioned, it just happened to come up in the pile that I was transferring over a little while ago. I'm aware the name is misspelled on there, but you see what I'm saying to you. So it is 8:33. See, there was a 22 and now there's a 33. See the AI and an 8. That's double forward, so it's 8:33 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Thursday, February 29th, 2024. Thank you.
Okay, here's another part to this story. I said with the Taigetan group that they use that geometric technology. My mother brought up an interesting point that this is just like Coral Castle in Florida. And I've wondered about that for a while. And the guy said he used the same technique that he used to build pyramids. Yes, that's absolutely true. What's he got there? The whole Lucky Charms thing going on. The whole blue moons, green clovers, kind of thing. Going on with all the shapes. And Isaac think that's hilarious when I say that. I'm thinking this was more of a Pleiadian Taigetan group that was doing that, even though he was registered as a human. He could have gotten that from past life as these beings as well. Whereas it's the same type of geometry. We have the spheres sitting on top of boxes, on top of, with crescent moons and all that other stuff. It's in the same geometric shape pattern. And he was even going to do a tomb like the Egyptian pharaohs for this woman that he wanted, and the woman didn't want to come over anymore. Probably thought it was a little odd. We don't know what happened. We don't know the context behind that. I'm thinking she maybe couldn't process it or something. But the box that was sitting on top that he used to create that anti-gravitic or sound frequency field that you see sitting on top of the tripod, yeah, it's similar technology to what I was describing with the metal box of the spheres and stuff going in it. So, this is some of its common technology that's out there, the geometric shapes. Also, some of the cargo hauler ships you hear about within the SSP, they were just a rectangle, looked like an elongated board cube with no markings and stuff on it. And inside there was the engine core and had the pilot on one side and the engineering section in the middle or the back, and had the squares of like both crew quarters and also storage and all that other stuff in the engine core. And that's how some of those were built. And I'm thinking that got that from either it was retrofitted alien technology or it was mimicked alien tech or back engineered alien tech to get that kind of look. That's where you see those almost like those bored cubes peering out of the clouds. Yeah, I'm thinking they got it from trade from some of these other races that way. But that's a cargo vessel. There's also the shippers that I told you about that look like flying buses or semis that go from Alaska down to Arizona. We've seen them here too. Some of them look like Mercury. They're elongated. Or like the Mayan Federation uses these stone-like ones that have symbols on the side. Like Muamua, I believe they call it. And some of them are probes too. They make asteroids into probes. But this, and it's also, this was like vitrified stone. When I saw it, of course, metal is forged stone and ore, iron ore and such. So, yeah, it looked like vitrified stone, kind of like in the times of Atlantis when the nuclear bomb went off. In the Celtic world, you have these structures that it's vitrified stone where it came from a nuclear blast. And you see the drip pattern is going the other way, away from the original explosion, which would have been Atlantis City in the Eye of Sahara under the Atlas Mountains. So, and it aims away from that point, if you were to look. So, at least that's what I've seen from shows anyway, and just kind of intuitively surmising, or an educated surmising, or not to say guess, but you know what I'm saying. The trajectory is right towards the Atlantic and towards that spot in Africa. But anyway, but this is interesting that we were surmising it, and also the fact they're listening. Their listening posts. I was wondering how the Taigetans always knew they were being talked about. They would always get mad at us when we were talking about all this stuff. Like when we made the show, I was thinking them for what they were doing, mimicking the different religious figures and everything. They got pissed. We also put the show out there. Of course, they could have seen YouTube and scanned for that, but they scanned for the different belief systems. They have these devices all over the place. Like I said, that dream, or also Joanne and I mentioned that on the real Taigetan agenda, the true Taigetan agenda. Whereas that structure, they were listening to people's belief systems. What are they doing? They're listening to what people are saying, just like the government monitors things. But this is a different tech. A different type of tech, same physics. So, recording and listening. So, it's the same damn thing, even no matter how alien it looks, it has to use the same physics. And the only times it looks like it changes physics is if it's a level of physics we don't understand yet. It looks like it defies it when it's actually going along with levels of it we can't comprehend yet and have not encountered yet. Just like the encoding, decoding, where your brain's seeing something that hasn't seen before. So you're seeing like the Scarecrow from the Wizard of Oz or the Thor and Iron Man from the Avengers. There was an insider that said, Randy Kramer, that said the thing about the Scarecrow. I said the thing about the Avengers when you were looking at different aliens. I said the thing about the clowns with the dingo balls on them. So it's encoding, decoding, and that's Isaac's thing, where he made them look like clowns. Same thing, where you haven't encountered something yet. Just also comprehending certain physics. You haven't encountered it yet. Like in Star Trek Voyager, when Janeway was talking to the holographic Da Vinci, when he was trying to comprehend, or she was trying to get him to comprehend what was going on when they captured his hologram. He thought he was in the New World in America. And she goes, do you believe that there's just some things that you've encountered that you can't comprehend? And because his programming was limited towards the Da Vinci character, he goes, of course. This was John Rhys Davies that was playing that character. He goes, of course, there is. People were surprised when Gimli himself appeared in Trek, but it was some people were shocked and surprised at that. Some Trek fans were awed, just like when Christopher Reeves appeared in Smallville. They only announced it just in the commercial break just before, and now a message from Christopher Reeves. And then he appeared in the episode after he gave his message about paralysis and everything. He appeared in the episode, and shortly thereafter, the actor passed away. But that's how they sometimes will announce. They did that with Voyager. He just appeared there, and his name was in the credits. They didn't announce it or anything on the commercials. That's sometimes how they do it. So, I will leave this here. It is 1:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Thursday, February 29th, 2024. Thank you.
Oh, another part of the extreme OCD behavior, this is part of the babbling conversation, is Isaac's edifice outside. I have it facing the door, which he wanted, but I'm always out there trying to straighten it perfectly symmetric. And that's also that ancient side of me where I was somebody who made symmetric, pyramids and obelisks and all this other stuff. The things have to be perfect. But the pyramids I make here aren't always exactly symmetric. These come from a soapstone model that I gave the mold maker that wasn't always exactly perfect, but yet it works. It does its job what I want it to do. So regrounding is not caring about the symmetrics. So, and he gets mad, if I'm out there anally kind of just, OCD-ish, trying to situate it, like moving and turning the labels on medicines and pop bottles and stuff like that. Medicines in the cabinet all have to have the label out. Spices all would have to have the label out. You can clearly see what something is by the ingredients, but of course having the labels out, that's like also storekeepers do. That's how catalogers do, accountants, all this other stuff. So that's in the genetics in some fashion in some of those jobs. Herbalists, and it comes through the genetics. You fight it in one aspect, ground, of course, use it in wherever it's needed, and not anything else. So, for organizational purposes, and that's it. Like I have jars full of ingredients. Most of them. I found out the energies of it have to be seen the light. The crystals, I had them in buckets, and they didn't like that. They had to be out in the open, like all these. So I had to put it like ingredients. That's where more than likely, I believe I had herbalist and apothecaric past lives, and dimensional selves in the multiverse, and that's where I'm getting some of this from too. Just like my skill set came from classes in the SSP, but I'm using it for good here. So for my psychic services. So bleed through. It is 8:31 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Friday, March 1st, 2024. Thank you.
Oh, more on the babbling concept. More OCD behaviors showed up as I shed other ones. New ones surface. Like I have one now where I touch the tip of my nose constantly, like this. It used to be where I would touch here, and then Joanna would start doing this, getting some empathic transference from me. You can transfer it to others apparently too, kind of like a virus, kind of like when you yawn, how others in the room yawn. It's because you're clearing energy, raising the frequency, and that's how that spreads. But mannerisms can spread in a similar way. I've noticed I've started to get new ones, and where I've forced myself to quit the old ones, and new ones started to surface. Now I'm going to force myself to quit the new ones and see what happens there. It keeps continuing.
And there could be 100, even 1,000 layers to this. I don't think it's quite that high. It's probably a couple hundred at best, but we'll see. And how many variations the layers have. Some of them, there could be only 10 for all I know. So we'll see how that goes. If there is nothing else, you'll hear nothing else. And I will babble no longer. So it is. There were 3 ones there, so it's more likely also AI. And the mouth, we call it, participating in this, if not governing it. So it is. Well, like through V2K technology and whatnot. So it is 9:43 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Friday, March 1st, 2024. Thank you. Okay, one other thing about the babbling. There's another OCD thing that popped up. And I've had this before, I just didn't notice it to document it. As you talk about them, they tend to go away. That's a good way to get rid of this too, is to acknowledge it and then ground in the opposite polarity of it by not doing it. This one's going to be a little tougher because this is about words, where as I'm putting the AdSense, or AdWords, not AdSense, but AdWords, into the Google AdWords, I was putting the Halo stuff up, I had to put all like not only the Halo games in order, but the same content I put as the AdWords in all of those. I wish I could just copy and paste it into the next one. I had to do one at a time, but I still have to make sure they're in order. In all actuality, with the AdWords, it does not matter in the damn slightest. I could put 3, 1, 2, 4, ODSD, and then ODST, excuse me, and then then I can put infinite reach backwards. It doesn't matter. In the algorithm, it does not matter in the order of the slightest, but my OCD makes it so it does matter a lot. That's part of the babbling, and that's part of the OCD behavior. So I logged this one, and I'm going to put it backwards at some point just to fight that. And I would suggest people do that. In AdWords, it doesn't make a damn bit of difference. So, and I had to do that with Bethesda AdWords, the stuff for Microsoft, and well, I didn't put Microsoft in there, but I'll go back and do that. But for both, but yeah, it's interesting how that plays out. I did that with the Elder Scrolls. I had to put it all in order, all of it. Conspiracies. I did that for conspiracy sector, and subjects that were for the lifting. But I always had to put them in the same combination of words. Doesn't matter in the slightest for AdWords. So it is 3:28 p.m. Oh. Also, if you're wanting to get certain shows in certain areas, to get past some of the shadow banning, put like common words in there, like God, Jesus, all those things. They can sit into there. People hate it when people put it in the common categories: God, government, Jesus, Republican, Democrat. Any of these bigger words. Presidents' names, stuff like that. It gets it in those other lists, and that's another way to get around the shadow banning, by the way. And I did that with some shows. Some people got pissed at me. My father always hated it when he got on eBay and saw things in the generalized lists and all of them too. But people do that for that reason. So, and they did it before the shadow banning was even a really big word or a huge thing. But some of it did actually still go on. The cancel culture isn't new, folks. So it is 3:28 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Thursday, March 21st, 2024. Thank you. Okay, more new OCD stuff popped up. There was an older one that popped up where, again, like it's cycling through, like old ones, and then there's new ones. Like doing this, the eyebrows. That has to be both hands. If I do one hand, it feels weird, kind of crap. I mean, it's odd what has come up, where I have to itch this clavicle and then go and itch this clavicle, and then massage both shoulders. It's really weird. It sometimes means the energy meridians are clogged too. And I also notice I still do the chewing my lips and tongue. That means energy meridians clogged, or that's also the sign of a stroke too. I know it's not that, but yeah, that's energy meridian clog. Sometimes that's what these mean, like you're trying to clear stuff out, but then like the AI and the other garbage that hits, like the dumbing or the blob energy, any of the chaotic soup that hits clogs the meridians, and that's what you're actually doing. That's that too, but it just keeps switching. The more I ignore one, the more it switches. So you know part of it is the OCD babbling thing. The other thing is the clearing of the meridians. And it's weird how this is surfacing. Really weird. Like I've had to hold like both hands like on the and kind of like, oh, I can't even set this down. Kind of like this, where you hold both hands or even put the finger under like this and do this. But you have to do both sides, or I cross a leg and then I have to cross the other leg. I found out doing that symmetrically, even though it was a massage therapist that told me to even it out and do both sides. She also did the OCD thing. So again, it's clearing of a meridian. So if people are doing that, it's clearing, but also the over amount of it falls under the whole mind babbling OCD thing. So yeah, this is weird how it's switching up. The more I've ignored and fought older ones, like the moving of the toes and moving the fingers, new things come up, and some really old ones that I haven't thought about in a long time have come up, like trying to cross my legs normal. That almost did it, but I fought it. Like it's regurgitating old ones out of the Rolodex or out of the database. Yeah, and it just keeps doing it. It may try to infinitely repeat like a AI going through randomly old, new. Let's pick some fragments of old ones and create new ones, and just keep doing it. So this is another report on this. I know this has been long. I am sorry, but in all fairness, it was called, and the episode is called The Babbling. So we'll leave this here. If anything else comes up, you'll hear about it. If not, well, here it is. So it is 7:29 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Thursday, March 21st, 2024. Thank you.
Two more OCDs popped up. I have to read the underscores under everything and say underscore or period or question mark or comma, or another one that's surfaced back and forth, that one, and another one where under each comment on Facebook I have to do the reaction. I started out doing it as more networking so people would see our stuff from hitting like and stuff like that. Then I have to hit all of them. If I miss one, my brain misfires a little bit, goes, or having to look at the reaction of others of each one, and I have to cut that out. It pendulum swings back and forth. I've had those sometimes and sometimes not. The idea is to not. Only hit the like on the thing you actually do like, love or funny or sad or wow or mad or just a thumbs up or whatever. They need a thumbs down, an eye rolling, and a couple of others, a question mark and a what the fuck, stuff like that on there, but they haven't done it yet. But you know what I'm saying. So it is 9:44 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Thursday, March 21st, 2024. Thank you. New OCD popped up. It was now I have to read the arrows associated, like if it's arrow pointing to something, like read more and it points. I have to read the dashes, arrows, all this other stuff. Weird new stuff pops up constantly. And it's because of resisting the other ones. With each new one, it has to be resisted. This is how far down the rabbit hole this goes, unfortunately. So I just figured I'd add that report there. So it is 3:47 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday, March 25th, 2024. Thank you. You see, with each new one, each old one resisted, a new one surfaces. It just goes down the rabbit hole a lot. Therefore, you have to have, it's the same rules each time. And it's psionic attacks is what it is. So, and causing the OCD, and you have to constantly build that muscle. If you can build your muscle equal to where the bad guys have been, through their psionic garbage, you're more powerful. Like Morpheus said in The Matrix, they can never be as powerful as you. It's because your muscles are stronger in this case. I'm not saying you're superior. I'm just saying you've had more weights to lift. So it is 3:48 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday, March 25th, 2024. Thank you.